Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the Ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
Words of wisdom to live by today. Birthdays are good for you. The more you have, the longer you live. And here's one to really keep in mind and remember. When everything's coming your way, you're in the wrong lane. Good morning, everybody. Here comes Kate Smith and God Bless America, followed by a Patriot with our Pledge of Allegiance. Tuesday, March 4. Good morning. Good morning. I'm Zeb Bell, and welcome to Zeb at the Ranch with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you. Really nice people. Along with some of our great advertisers, including Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland and Burley. And let's not forget our friends at Western Way Services, always at your disposal. Get on the route service and call Kelly, 734-6969. Ladies and gentlemen, you thought the television series Superwoman was over. Wonder Woman took her place, and she's sitting over at the station right now. Hello, Gina.
Well, good morning, and I have my my lasso of truth, and my invisible airplane is sitting out in the parking lot, so don't run into it when you come by, okay?
Your what of truth?
My lasso of truth.
Oh, yeah, she did carry that, didn't she?
Mm-hmm, the lasso of truth, and then she had the bracelets, and then she had the invisible airplane. What
was her name? I forgot the actress's name.
Linda Carter.
Big woman, big tall woman.
She was a big tall woman. Very, very jealous I am, because I was gypped on the heights in my family. I'm the shortest one.
But she was a big framed woman also.
She was an Amazon. Let's just call it out. She was an Amazon.
I'm glad you said it, because the minute I would have said that, there would have been the sexist calls. You can't say that about ladies.
And here's the thing, is I've gone as Wonder Woman for a couple Halloweens, and I can do it. I smack dab.
You look like her. You look like her.
So all I want to do now is, for my Halloween costume, is I want to actually make the original costume that she has, including the cape of justice.
The cape Okay.
I know my cartoons, okay?
Yes, you do. That wasn't a cartoon so much as it was a television, so I think the TV show got the notoriety more than the cartoon.
But the cartoon started it off, so the TV show got it more notoriety, yes.
Now that we've covered that, and it's been so interesting, what have we got for the Pledge of Allegiance?
We have got superhero Rotten on for the pledge.
Okay.
And then Michael Rogers on for the weather.
He's got his cape on, too. Good morning, Mr. Rotten. The pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, my dear friend. God's blessings to you, and I hope you have a wonderful day, okay?
You too.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Ladies and gentlemen, we can't start the day off unless we hear the weather, and by the best weatherman in the world, MichaelRogersWeather.com. Good morning.
Good morning. Welcome to Zeb at the Ranch and the weather, where every day is a good day. Some days are better than others. This is one of those days it doesn't really matter. Spring is not too far away. We got a spring-like pattern going on. You got sun and clouds, so today is going to cloud up tonight. You're going to see showers for tomorrow. Temperature is going to be on the mild side. We're going to be right around 57 for the daytime high. 58 is a pretty good size number. 39 for the overnight low. And then we're looking to work our way toward ourselves a nice weekend, but we're not there yet. And we're still into winter, but I can just feel it in the bones. We're getting close to that spring pattern. We're only about 3 weeks away. It's almost there, and then we're going to have ourselves a good time in the Magic Valley of South Central Idaho. So enjoy the day and enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate it, buddy. Take care of yourself. Hey, just a reminder, March 6th through the 8th, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night, Minico High School is going to perform Hello, Dolly. That is an outstanding musical, and it's going to be great. 7 p.m. with a matinee on the 8th at 1 p.m. Get your tickets from any cast member, and tickets are $7 for adults, $5 for students. Coming up this weekend. Don't forget that. Also, I want to remind you about our friends at SafeLink Internet. Man, Idaho's #1 choice in high-speed internet, and all you have to do to get on the program like we are, and we're blessed Zeb at the ranch that we've got them working for us. SafeLink Internet, 677-8000. And by the way, they've got a customer referral program that for each referral, a customer receives $39.95 credit to their account, so get out and tell your friends and neighbors. The best. Idaho's #1 choice, SafeLink Internet. You call them today. Absolutely the best. Also, speaking of the best, I want to remind you, too, about our friends at Daryl's Cleaners. Honesty, integrity, the best of their work. They care. I mean, what else can you say about them? I mean, they absolutely turn out, and when you go in there with your rumply crumplies like mine, and you never know what's going to be on my clothes, a little bit of the corral, a little bit of mud, a whole bunch of everything else, gravy, you name it, they come back looking brand spanking new. Daryl's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. The best cleaners anywhere, anytime. You stop in and see Kevin and Cindy and the rest of the crew at Daryl's Cleaners in Burley. The best. All right, give us a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Come on, really? Really? Did you hear the story about Rutgers University? You know, I did some follow-up on this story, and it is so pathetic. It is so pathetic that our colleges and universities are getting so biased, so prejudiced against anyone with a conservative value system. Rutgers University has decided that Condoleezza Rice is not worthy of speaking at their college commencement, their university commencement. They said she wasn't that extraordinary and not worthy of speaking. And another reason, and some of the professors chimed in and said, well, we don't like her because of her involvement in Iraq. Now, let's just look at the facts here, folks. This lady, Condoleezza Rice, has been one of my favorite people in politics for years. As a matter of fact, when the very disgusting Democrats in this area condemn me for not liking Barack Obama, they weren't smart enough or bright enough to realize at that same time, if you want to go back, pull the tapes, you can, I don't care, I was backing Condoleezza Rice to run against him. And I think she would have won. I think she would have won. Oh, and by the way, for those that aren't smart enough to understand this out there on the liberal left, she happens to be black also. But Condoleezza Rice is 100 more times qualified to be president than what we have now because of her extraordinary skills and graces with foreign affairs and foreign leadership. And my goodness, for Rutgers University to decide that she is not worthy, what kind of a university is this? Calls welcome, 436-2244-1-866-927-4587. Our friends over at Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Go to the light. Go to the light. Keith is sitting there. I got to call Keith later on this morning and get him, pick his brain for a while. But they've got incandescent light bulbs of 40, 60, 75, or 100 watt. And believe me, in great big boxes, or you can buy them individually. I bought a great big box. Doggone right. I want my incandescent light bulbs. And I don't want the government saying, well, you got to put in this, you got to put in that, you got to burn a candle. No. I'm going to use these. Ramsey Heating and Electric, 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. You stop in, check out the lights and all your electrical needs, where they provide warm winters and cool summers. Ramsey Heating and Electric. Really nice people. Come on, let me have a couple of phone calls now, if you would, please. We're going to talk about something else. You're not going to believe this next story I have about she's an 18-year-old girl in New Jersey. Parents, believe me, this is just going to curdle your milk. Valley White Home and Ranch, don't forget 910 South Oneida in Rupert. Chick days are right around the corner. Here a chick, there a chick, everywhere a chick. No, not that kind. But they've got everything over there for your chicks, and we're going to be talking all about Chick Day next week, as a matter of fact. And stop in, have a cup of coffee and a donut in the morning, fill up your gas or diesel, and don't forget they've got hot soup and sandwiches at lunchtime, all your dog and kitty cat food, pine shavings for the horse trailers and stalls, everything. Smart lick tubs and cattle lick box, they got it all. Valley White Home and Ranch, 910 South Oneida in Rupert. You stop in and see them today. This story, I just can't believe this. And thank goodness the parents are not weakening. But listen to this. A New Jersey honor roll student girl, 18 years of age. I think, no, wait a minute. Is she 18 yet, or is she 17 turning 18? I'm not exactly sure on that. Bear with me. But she is suing her parents for money she says is due to her. Why? Here's the skivvy. Her mom and dad set down rules until she left the house. And the rules are, you will have a curfew, you will let us know where you are, you will be home on time, and there will be weekly chores for you to do around the house to help your mother and your father. The girl said no. She wouldn't do that. She would not adhere to a curfew. She would not adhere to doing any chores. Nothing. And she moved out. And now she is suing, taking her mother and father to court. I saw it on TV this morning, as a matter of fact, about 4:30. She's suing her mother and father for living expenses and fun money. What are your thoughts out there, parents? Come on.
Kick her out.
Kick her out? I mean, don't let the doorknob hit you in the posterior.
Okay, we've got a phone call, but I just want to weigh in on this one. If I had done that with my parents back in the day, they would have said, see ya, go and live on your own, and if you think you can make it out in the world with all of this, go for it.
Yeah, I wouldn't have made it to court, though. My dad, a former boxer, I would hate to think what would have happened prior to walking into the courtroom.
They would have left me somewhere out in the Clearwater wilderness, leaving me to find my way home.
Holy buckets. Can you imagine suing your parents for living expenses and fun money?
I'm sorry, chick. Go get a job.
Oh, go get a life. You better learn appreciation.
Wow. Apparently she was a spoiled little brat.
Are you kidding me? The verbiage doesn't aptly explain what she is. There's words, but none of which we can use on the radio.
Correct.
Okay.
And we've got Joe Taylor on the phone for you.
I can't wait to hear what Joe has to say. Joe, in a very subtle way, will sum it all up. Good morning, Joseph.
Good morning, Deb. Well, I'm not going to comment on your story because I think you and Gina have done a pretty good job. I don't say I can do any better, but I do have a comment. I've been resisting hearing aids for a number of years, and I heard a friend of mine had got something that almost fits his original ears. So I tried it. Being a veteran, I went up to the VA, and I've got hearing aids, and I can hear with. They don't squeal or squawk. I couldn't lose them. So anybody that is a veteran that wants to know how to do that, just give me a call at 678-9400, and Mary and I will walk you through that process. You'll never regret it.
I think that is a wonderful program, and I commend you for calling in and telling us about it. Give us your number again.
678-9400.
All right, my dear friend, God bless you and everything that you are involved in, and I appreciate that. And if you'll send me maybe a little email on that, I'll keep plugging it on the air for you.
I'll have Mary do that for you. Thanks. Have a great day.
God bless you, Joe. Thanks so much.
I hear you're walking.
Slow, but I'm walking. Okay, thanks, Joe.
Well, at our age, you want to slow it down a little bit anyway, Zeb.
Yeah, so I can bend over and smell the roses easier. You're right.
Exactly right. Have a good one.
All right, Joe. Thanks so much.
Bye.
Calls, welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Honestly, what would you do, parents, if that were your son or daughter? I'm not going to do any chores. I'm not going to honor your curfew. Are you kidding me? I'm leaving. I'm gone. I'm out of here. And then, a couple of days later, you get notice that you're being sued by your child for living expenses and fun money. What would you do, parents? I want to hear that. Hey, don't forget Denny's Restaurant. I tell you, we are so happy that we got involved with Denny's Restaurant and putting our lunch bunch over there at 611 North Oberlin in Burley. Oh, man. And don't forget, on Tuesdays from 4 to 10 p.m., kids eat free. Visit your local Denny's and you'll see all about it. You better believe it. Great food, great service. We are so happy with the service, and you're just going to love it. Breakfast, lunch, or dinner, you stop into Denny's Restaurant. And don't forget, too, our next lunch bunch coming up at the end of this month. We're looking forward to it. It's been so exciting. And we just want to say that the entire community needs to get over and support them. They do a wonderful job. Thomas and Terry and the whole crew. Denny's Restaurant in Burley, serving you. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb.
Yes, sir.
Personally, I think the lawyer that's even taken this case ought to be disbarred. This is total BS. I mean, it's a girl that she's supposedly an honor student, so that means she's not stupid.
Well, maybe in some respects.
She might be book smart.
Yeah, there you go.
She's about to get life smart real quick.
How do, stop right there, Doug. How does a child, and I got to admit, I didn't have that problem with my kids, but how does a child get that absolutely confused on what the world is about and how the world is that they could possibly say, we don't have to honor the rules of our parents, we will do what we want, and we certainly will not do chores, we're out of here, and then turn around and sue the parents? I just can't understand this. You're going to have to help me.
I don't understand it. The only thing I can see out of it is this gal apparently had too cushy of a life growing up.
Yeah.
She didn't get her butt kicked often enough. And, she just thinks that, hey, I'm 18, I know everything, so they can support me.
Well, you just heard
everything. She needs to go out and make her own money so she can support herself.
Amen. There you go right there. And I admire, the father was on television this morning, and he seems like a very strong individual to the point where he's not going to cave into his daughter, which I think in this case they can't. The parents cannot cave in. They've got to let this case, I think, run its course through the court system, and hopefully the judge will laugh it out of court and tell the young lady, step up to the bench, and I'm going to give you a little story about how you better start running your life because you're in a heap of trouble. You have alienated the two people that brought you into this world and gave you everything, and how could you be so doggone dumb?
Right. Like I say, it shouldn't even become a lawsuit. That lawyer that's taken this case, his scruples got to be way down in the toilet.
Well, if they've even reached that high level. Doug, God bless you, man. Thank you.
You too.
All right. Caller number 2, I'll be right with you. Don't go away. Barry Equipment and Rental. I've been telling you that they've got that great big line of Doosan heavy equipment. I mean, those heavy equipment loaders and excavators. Well, I'll tell you what, if you want to get in there, they've got a great display of them right over there in Burley at 159 West Highway 30 in Burley with Nick and Rosie and the crew, and then also at 465 Addison Avenue West in Twin Falls. Doosan, I'm telling you, hardest working, most reliable, and you're just going to absolutely find out that this is the best build equipment for the job you need for your construction equipment. Doosan Heavy Equipment at Barry Equipment and Rental. You give them a call today in Burley, 678-7368, and in Twin, 732-7368. Barry Equipment and Rental, serving you. Absolutely the best. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Hi, Zeb. I would hope that none of my children would do that. Well, they're too old to do that now anyway. But if they'd done that to me when they were kids, I think I'd have to really look at this kid. A kid that was sued her parents is very ungrateful. So if she's under 18, I would turn her over to foster care and let the state take care of her.
Mm-hmm.
And if she's over 18, I don't think she can get anything because she's legally an adult.
Yeah, and she's made the choice to move out. She's made the choice.
Yeah. Now, if she's 18, they don't owe her anything.
But how do you let a family? How do you let a family?
I call her bluff and turn her over to foster care.
I think you're 100% right. But one question that keeps sticking in the back of my head: how does a family situation get that perverted, if you will, to the point where this little snot, let's call her what she is, she's just a little snot, I'm going to say it, would tell her mother and father, I am not going to do anything for you. I'm not going to do any chores for you. I'm not going to honor a curfew. You can sit up all night and worry if you want. I'll come home when I want to. How does it get to that point?
Well, I think, even if they had started young with her, teaching her, some kids just when they get to be teenagers and because of who their peers are, think that they can do what their peers do and break family rules. So either they didn't have any family rules with her growing up and doing chores and that. I hate to say it, but when you're raising children, little children, there has to be just a little ounce of a fear to gain respect.
Amen.
They're growing up.
Stop right there, though, ma'am. You just said
fear develops into love.
You just said something that's very important, and it also is applicable to our standing right now in the world because of Obama. We have lost the respect and the fear from other countries, and once that's gone, you have nothing, and they won't respect you.
Oh, don't even get me started on him.
Okay.
What a waste.
God bless you. I appreciate your call this morning. Have a wonderful day, please.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Caller number 2, I'm going to ask your patience. You're the patient call this morning. I'm going to ask you to stay on the line. We've got to get this in here real quick at the bottom of the hour, and I'll be right with you. I promise. Stay with us. Travel Loop Supply with my dear friend Jim McCall. I think the world of Jim and his family and his business. Travel Loop Supply, 1050 West 203, South Hayburn. Let me say it again so nobody's confused, all right? 1050 West 203 South, Hayburn, Idaho. The number to call, 438-8730. They got all your bolts. They've got the metric bolts. They've got a route service that'll fill your bolt bins, have bolts will travel. And like Jim was saying last week, they've got a special discount on filters for older, right up to the new equipment, up to 90% off. You can't beat that. Please call them today or stop in. And Bubba ropes are 10% off. Travel Loop Supply, serving you. We'll quickly do the Ag Minute. Caller, I'll be right with you. Good morning. Here's the Ag Minute.
Today's Ag Minute brought to you by the Capital Press, the West Ag Weekly.
Idaho barley industry leaders believe the state will retain its spot as the nation's top barley producer in 2014. Kelly Olson, administrator of the Idaho Barley Commission, has every reason to believe Idaho will be number one again. North Dakota has traditionally been the nation's number one barley producing state. Idaho gained that spot in 2011, but North Dakota regained the title in 2012. Idaho barley production increased 4% in 2013 to 55.8 million bushels, and Idaho again took the number one spot. Idaho barley farmers harvested 600,000 acres last year, and Olson expects that number to be about the same this year.
For more agriculture news and information, turn to the West Ag Weekly, the Capital Press, and capitalpress.com.
And thank you to our patient call of the morning. Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb. By golly, I tell you what, it's good to hear you again. I've got an input on these kids. Most of them, well, I won't say most of them, but a lot of them don't even know how to work.
That's true. That's very true. Very true.
All they know how to do is sit around and peck on those computers.
Okay, but now let's not be just creating and stating a problem. How do we go back to the problem solving? I mean, I'm from the old school that when my dad, if I didn't have the chores done when he got home from work, oh my goodness, I got to guarantee you that there was going to be heck to pay.
Yes, sir. And I'm from the old school, too. I grew up on a farm. I had cows to milk. I had cows to feed, horses to feed.
Yep.
And during the summer, I did farm work. And I grew up working. And I have worked all my life. You know what I'm saying? I have never drawn an unemployment check. Never in my life.
But how do you go about, in this situation, reparation within the family of trying to restore a love and kind of a family atmosphere after a daughter like this decides to sue mom and dad for living expenses and fun money and basically told the parents she couldn't care less about them? How can you ever restore something?
That there is a dead-end road for her. Evidently, she was never taught to work. She probably didn't even have to do the dishes.
Yeah.
You know, after a meal. Mama did it all. Daddy did it all. So she don't know, and she's lost.
Well, she is going to be, quite frankly, to use the word derelict, I think is even kind, because she absolutely is punishing no one but herself, because in the future she's going to end up with exactly what she has now, nothing.
That's a fact. Unless she marries somebody that will cater to her.
Yeah, and I certainly hope that doesn't happen. Sir, it's good to hear from you again. God bless you. Have a good day.
Thank you, Zeb. You too.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
You bet.
I just can't imagine sitting in the living room reading the paper or whatever, and here comes this girl, and she said, "No, I'm not going to do any chores. And as far as your curfew is concerned, Dad and Mom, I don't care about that. I'll come home when I want. And if you don't like it, I'm going to move out." And then a couple of days later, bingo, you are being sued by your lovely little charming child, and she's suing you for living expenses and fun money because she had to move out of your humble abode. Oh, there's a nuclear cloud above that house if I were living there. What would you do if that was your son or daughter? I'd like to hear from you. Hey, Rogge Auctions, my old buddy Cade and the rest of the crew are having a ripping big auction at the Minidoka County Fairgrounds this coming Saturday at 11 a.m. They'll bring the gavel down and say, we are going to start selling tractors and vehicles and guns, and they've got some special wagons, too. They got a Surrey wagon with tassels, the whole 9 yards, wooden wheels. They got a chuck wagon. They got a feed wagon that's all wired and ready to rip and go. They got all Black & Decker table saws. They've got a lot. It's a big spring cleanup sale at the Minidoka County Fairgrounds at 11 a.m. sharp this Saturday. For more information, call Cade at 431-0074. Rogge Auctions, great big sale this weekend. Don't miss it. Okay. Give us a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. You know, along with the story of that girl, we got a call. We'll take that first. Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb. I want to switch subjects because of the importance of it.
Well, whoa, Adrian. Now, wait a minute. If I'm on a story, I'm going to stay with it, but don't just assume that we will switch subject. What is the subject that you want to get into right away?
Common Core. The state legislature is going to appropriate money to fully implement Common Core. And people need to get onto their legislative people and say, I just talked to a friend this morning that has grandchildren, and he can't help them with their math because of the new way they're doing multiplication and division. I've seen it. It's just unbelievable. It's ludicrous to go from the old traditional ways you and I learned to do math to this new method. It's absolutely archaic.
All right, no, wait a minute. Stop. You said you've seen the math. I'm very interested in this. I have not seen the new quote-unquote math and the stylistic attitudes that they have for coming up with a final answer. Well, okay, 4 times 4. How do they tell kids to do it differently?
Well, I can't explain it to you on the air like this, because it's unbelievable. I mean, I did a lot of math in my life, and it's just unbelievable how they come up with the answer. They get the right answer, but it's like going around, to get to Burley, you go to Haley first.
Oh my goodness.
It's just totally ridiculous.
What I'd like to do, Adrian, is if you can put together some of that information and bring it out here to the program someday, and I'll feature an hour with you, and we'll go over some of that stuff. I have heard about it being so absolutely ridiculous, and I haven't seen it myself personally, but I'd like to take a look at it.
Yeah, but people right now, I mean, the urgency is that they're appropriating all this money, and according to the paper this morning on the Times News on A6, and it points out that they're going to appropriate $9.4 million for Idaho Core standards and other things, but I imagine most of that is going to go into these Idaho Core standards. And basically, they keep changing the names, and so they don't call it Common Core now. Now they'll call it Idaho Core Standards. But it's all about dumbing down our kids, and it takes the parents out of the picture, see. So the parents are not able to help the kids. That puts the training totally out of the home and into the state.
What does it do? Wait a minute. Let me ask a question there. What does it do to the possibility of completely eradicating homeschooling?
Well, yeah, you got it, because see, they have to basically teach to the final SAT and those college entrance exams, and so they don't say it's teaching the test, and the misconception is that the so-called governors got together and put together the Common Core. This thing came right down from the United Nations, and you know how much I love the United Nations. Mm-hmm. And it come through our U.S. Department of Education, which is another socialist institution and pushing all this stuff down. It was a top-down program, folks. It's not a bottom-up, kind of a situation. So it's been a big lie from the very beginning, but unfortunately the educators have bought onto this thing. Now the parents are being excluded from the picture because they're not. I have a friend over in the Burley area that I talked to just before I talked to you the other day that was very concerned about this, because the parents are now having to go into remedial classes to teach their kids how to do the new math.
Yeah.
Can you believe that?
I'll get more information on it. We're planning on doing some programs on it next week, as a matter of fact. Call me after the program and we'll get some things put together. Got to run, and I got a whole stack of calls. Thanks, Adrian. Appreciate your call this morning. Thank you.
Legislature, no Common Core. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You bet. Bye. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb.
Yes, sir.
I agree with him. I looked at a little bit of it, and to me it looked like what they were doing was eliminating a person who might be a quick thinker. They're just dumbing the kids down to where they have to get down to a lower level to approach the right answer. But that's not what I wanted to talk about. You were talking about this girl. I think the judge already made a judgment on that, and the judge relayed it to her. So that was taken care of by the judge. But why should a judge have to even be involved? I mean, this is years ago. I knew this case right here in Burley. This fellow, his wife, she found interest other places, and finally, I don't know how many times, she cheated on him. He finally divorced her. He had 5 kids. One of them was just a tiny baby. When he ended up with those 5 kids, well, living wasn't just exactly the way these kids might like it, but he was getting by. He was working constantly, and he had relatives that was helping him as much as they could. And then the welfare, one of the boys decided he wanted to live somewhere else. And so he quit school, and he went and lived with some other people. These other people decided, they wanted child support for this kid that was living with him. And he said, no, that kid can come home and go to school. He's not, and he said, no, I'm not coming home. I don't want to go to school. He said, well, you're going to have to go to school if you come home. And so the welfare stepped in. And this welfare fellow who was having affairs around town, he decided that this guy had to pay child support. And so anyhow, long story short,
please,
when they got done, the welfare guy lost his job, and they stepped in up in Boise, and they told this kid, you go home and you go to school. And anyhow, the guy told the welfare, you want me to pay child support? You can just come and take the other 4 too. He had 5 kids.
There you go.
And they backed off really fast.
There you go. I know that this is absolutely repugnant to me that a child would absolutely be that arrogant and that selfish to turn around and sue their parents. Dwayne, thanks. I got to run. Thank you very much for your call. Appreciate it. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. And while I'm waiting for the next one to come in, Pro Paint, 1116 Overland in Burley. 25th anniversary sale going on right now. It started on the 1st and it goes all the way to March 15th. You better believe it. Best paint, best stains, best advice. Pittsburgh paint is on sale. Industrial paint for farm equipment. They've got the custom and stock colors available. Barbara and Brian really know how to decorate and really fix up your house. Give them a call. Stop in. They'd love to visit with you during the anniversary sale. Pro Paint, 1116 Overland in Burley. Really nice people. All right, you know, one other story I've got to get into this morning because it's absolutely devastating for what's going on around the world. I wish this president, and you've got to agree with me on this, I don't see how you could disagree, he's got to start showing some semblance of leadership. This man has been the most pathetic leader on the world scale that we have ever had. I think much worse than Jimmy Carter ever thought of being. And even the Democrats are coming forward and saying the same thing, that this man's got to step up. This man has to step up. Obama has mishandled or botched everything on foreign affairs. Obama has apologized to the nth degree for perhaps our purported transgressions to the world for over 200 years, of which that really offends me. And now look at this mess in the Ukraine. Last week, I had a young lady from the Ukraine. I'm trying to call her back now that the situation has even escalated to a worse degree. I'm going to try to get Maria back on the air again. She lives in the Ukraine. And now Putin, with 16,000 troops, is just knocking on the door about ready to say, I'm going in. I'll take it over. And basically, nothing is going to be done by us or anyone else. We're going to sit back and just let this go. I was listening very intently. Caller, I'll be right with you, I promise. I was listening very intently yesterday to former Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld. And Donald Rumsfeld said, with Obama, everyone is calling us weak and unstable, and the world knows that's the truth. Former UN Ambassador John Bolton said Obama has not the knowledge or the understanding to settle anything. And the Washington Post newspaper yesterday said Obama's foreign policy is a fantasy. We are in trouble with this administration. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Yeah, Zeb, I agree with everything you're saying about what's going on in the Ukraine. One of the things I wanted to do is go back to the Common Core. One of the questions on one of the examples that the students were doing, where they were asked the impact or their thoughts on whether or not Andrew Carnegie, Occupy Wall Street, and Karl Marx, and the impact, or whatever the case may be, but the fact that they even brought up Occupy Wall Street as an entity that has any effect or importance in a life at all, it was shocking. And then to bring up Karl Marx in an American textbook, it is shocking, even worse. And then to compare these as if somehow there is anything to compare. But the fact that this kind of thing is being done, see, on the surface it may seem benign, But the truth of the matter is they are literally slipping things in here. And this kind of thing is unbelievable. And if you get online, you'll see how these students have to add 3 figures together. It is the most insane, stupid waste of time. And in the end, this little girl had done all this work. And in the end, she wasn't even sure if she was right. I got the feeling that they want us to wonder if we really are capable of anything other than just, stick us on the rail, and you will be, you will work at the dairy, you will work at the farm, we're just all being sent to where we work. We're just a workforce, and, we're the peasants. This is just like communism. It is communism. It is truly shocking, and Common Core is being slipped in, and people that you and I both know and respect are defending it and accepting it. And you say, well, how is this possible? Well, I don't know.
Well, Randy, wait a minute. Well, let me just ask you here real quick. I'm older than you are, but that doesn't make any difference. I mean, we went through the basics of the same kind of a school system and learned the multiplication tables, learned the long division, etc. I was never, ever a math whiz. I hated mathematics to some degree, algebra, etc. But, I learned it. I remembered a lot of it. And a lot of it has come into play in my later life to where math actually has been very friendly to me in my later life, to where numbers and I get along very well. But now this new teaching of what was black and white, now there's a gray issue, that really bothers me.
Well, just for instance on this math problem, this little girl...
Real quick, Randy, because I got other calls waiting.
Explained to her mother what they had to do to add 3 figures, and they were like... 1,000, 1,400, whatever they were. Mm-hmm. And instead of just stacking 3 of these numbers on top of each other and adding them up and carrying the one or whatever it is, it took her 8 minutes.
8 minutes?
To draw squares, dots, and stuff. I can't explain it to you, and you can figure it out later, but 8 minutes to add up 3 figures.
Holy cow.
And then she did it the way she was taught by her mother. And it took her, just a second or two,
Yeah.
And she says, I know that this is right. But she says, I do not know that I have got this other right. And that is how they're teaching math.
All right, well, listen, I've got other calls, and I do appreciate you bringing that up, buddy. Thank you so much. Caller, you're the next patient caller. You got to stay on the line because we got a quick weather forecast brought to everybody by Butte Irrigation. Hello, Bryce. And they're located at 116 South, 600 West of Paul, and they got another new location right there just a wee bit north of Kimberly, right on Kimberly Road by Red Cap Corner. Butte Irrigation, serving you with all your irrigation needs. Yup, they'll get you wet. Butte Irrigation, doing the job for you. Here's MichaelRogersWeather.com.
Hi, everybody. Michael Rogers for MichaelRogersWeather.com. Not a bad day for today. Sun and clouds, partly cloudy tonight. Chance of showers for tomorrow. Temperatures on the mild side, almost like spring weather. But not yet. We're almost to spring, but not yet. We are officially and still are in winter. Sorry about that, but we're going to be done here real quick, so hang in there. Shouldn't be a bad day today. Temperatures should be for a daytime high right around 57, 59, low around in the upper 30s. Have a great day. Enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
Thank you, Michael. They'll get you wet at Butte Irrigation. And Paul and Kimberly, Bryce, and the crew, believe me, they can help you with all your irrigation needs. Butte Irrigation. Thank you very much. Bringing you MichaelRogersWeather.com. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb.
Yes, sir.
Thought it okay to talk about Ukraine?
Yeah, Gary, there's nobody in this area that I know that is more knowledgeable about what's going on over there. And let me just preface your remarks by saying this. I'm not saying that we should militaristically be involved with boots on the ground or a air attack or anything else to get Putin's attention, but there's so many things that he could have done as standards of stopping this economically that would have hurt Putin and the ruble, and I just don't think this leadership has done anything. Now, you can tell me I'm wrong.
No, you're right. And you're speaking of our leader, Obama.
I certainly am.
Well, just thinking this morning that how similar he is to the last czar, who was a very weak czar and allowed Lenin to take over Russia with the Bolshevik Revolution from outside the country. And the Tsar just didn't do anything, just let these guys have whatever they wanted through letters and little revolts here and there, and then was afraid to run, gave it up.
Gary...
So that's kind of interesting in terms of weakness.
Yeah.
But the other thing that struck me this week since we talked was, isn't it interesting that nobody revolted in the Crimea? Get out, leave us alone.
Yeah.
And so what has happened, and what really comes to light, and the truth is that the majority of those people are Russian and so indoctrinated that they want to be with Russia now. Is that insane or what?
Well, let me ask you this. Let me ask you a question right there, Gary, because here we have a situation in the Ukraine, as a matter of fact, where I saw a picture of the soldiers literally standing facing each other, Ukrainian soldiers and then also Russian soldiers. But they're friends. They've done so much together. Many of them are families that are intertwined through marriage and everything else. This whole thing has turned into a ridiculous mess.
Yeah. You know, I always, when I talk on your program about this, I'm always going to the end result, from our actions, what happens, and what happens 50 years down the road, what happens 100 years, and we're seeing it now. This one representative for Putin was saying that now for 25 years we've been in disarray, and you've put us against the wall and this and that. Well, that's why this country is in disarray, because there were so many communist members in the parliament, you couldn't get anything going with the Ukraine.
But let me ask you this.
Here they are, backed up against the wall, and anybody that's connected with the West is the evil guy.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Gary,
but here in this country, when we have a certain massive, huge proportion of our population that is leaning one way, when the opportunity comes for a good dictator and he gets their vote, we have swung off into no man's land too.
Okay, now Gary, I'm almost out of time and I got to do a commercial. I want you to answer this question. With the possible infiltration into the Ukraine by Putin's troops, 16,000 troops, and also into other areas, there's got to be some kind of a stop point. There's got to be somebody like Merkel from Germany or England or us, or perhaps throwing them out of the G8 or throwing them out of NATO or making warnings economically. You can't just let this cancer keep encroaching. Am I wrong?
Well, no, you're not wrong, but we haven't heard from these people. They're all kind of like hands off, laying back, waiting for the next guy to make a move. England, Germany, and France aren't really doing anything or throwing their arms in the air. We gave away Poland a few years ago as a base, and if it was anyone else, if it was me, we should have our ships in the Black Sea and saying, hold on here, buddy, but that isn't going to happen, and I do not know how you're ever going to get him out of the Crimea, because he wants it all back.
He wants the entire Soviet Union back in one big mass, and honestly, I don't see how this dog's going to stop from biting everybody, do you?
Well, not with our leader.
Yeah, that's right. I agree. Gary, I'm going to be calling you. I'm going to be calling you, Gary, and have you back on the program next week because this is way too interesting. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Love to do it. Bye.
Thank you. Very knowledgeable man right there. And besides that, a dear friend, Gary Shoresman, and this mess in the Ukraine with, like he said, not with this leader. We don't have any leadership right now. Look at all the different crises that have come up, and the verbiage has been the same. Yes, we'll get to the bottom of this, and there will be retribution. There's not going to be any retribution. This man doesn't do anything except give lip service. And you know what really offended me? I got to get this on the air right now. What really offended me while this Ukrainian crisis was looming, and all the networks were very concerned about Putin coming into these areas and taking over. What was the President of the United States doing? He was at a Democratic fundraiser bashing the GOP with all kinds of jokes about their status in government today. That's what he was doing yesterday, instead of being a leader and addressing the problem and looking for possible solutions with Merkel of Germany and others. I'm very offended by this man's stupidity and lack of leadership. Barack Obama. Great big tire sale going on at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Don't forget all 7 locations working and serving you. And with this big tire sale, don't forget they've got the very best of batteries. Oh, the batteries are on sale. They've got the very best of brake service with professionally trained technicians, over 30 years experience, all the premium quality parts, everything. You just get in there and check it out today. Shocks and struts, front end alignments, it's all there at all 7 locations. Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, Twist Family and Paul, John on Pole Line in Twin Falls, and of course don't forget the old Seahawk fan Randy on Overland and Burley. The very best from your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Thank you. They do the job for service to you. There you go. Coming up later on this morning, we are going to have at 9:06 Matt McCord, and we're going to be talking about $300 billion transportation bill that Obama wants. $300 billion. Wonder how that's going to get paid for. And then at 9:30 this morning, we have a gentleman coming on the program by the name of Chris Hackett, and he's going to be talking about severe weather preparation. Now, you might be saying, well, yeah, but it's almost springtime. Well, that's when a lot of parts of the country get the most severe weather. Late season snowstorms, wind, tornadoes, everything, and he's going to talk about preparation. Then, of course, at 10:06, Dr. History's on the air. And then at 10:30 this morning, a gentleman that I admire and I find to be one of the nicest people I've ever talked to, and that's Mr. Frank Priestley from Franklin, Idaho, and he is the president of the Idaho Farm Bureau Federation. So that's the rest of the morning right here on Zeb at the Ranch. We're going to take a little break right now for about 6 minutes, send it back over to Gina and the crew at K-Bar's headquarters. We'll be back. Zeb at the Ranch, don't go away. I like that music. Get you going. Good morning, everybody. I'm Zeb Bell. At Zeb at the Ranch with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, and service is the name of the game right there. Wonderful folks. Also, our thanks to some of our great advertisers like Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland and Burley with the best of memory foam pillows. I love my pillow. And, of course, our friends at Western Waste Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always at your disposal. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and its reasons. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal. Western Waste Services.
Oh, I'll tell you what, they do the job for you, and we're so proud to have them as one of our big advertisers on our program. Thank you very much, Western Waste Services. Whether it comes down to the weekly taking away of your garbage on the route service, or whether it's the renting of porta potties or recycling programs, whatever, and especially now they've also got something new for you, the Go Minis, the portable storage units. Absolutely excellent for storage, emergencies, and anything else you want to put in there. You call. Find out more about them at 734-6969. Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Wonderful people. You know, when you mention wonderful people, and I've said this before on the program, you have to talk about the friends that we have, and they are my friends, at Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert with Joel Heward, owner-manager. Now, the number to remember, and please do write this down, 436-5636, locally owned and operated, and their staff is always committed to upholding the highest ethical standards with unquestioned integrity, working for you and your family. They believe that every life is worth remembering, and they want to treat you the way you want to be served. So please contact them today, 436-5636, Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert. Let's go to the phone lines right now, and we have with us a young man that he's got quite a list of credentials behind his name. He is a Young Voices advocate studying political science and economics at Hofstra University in New York City, along with a lot of other accolades, and he's also appeared on the John Stossel TV show on Fox. Hey, Matt McCord, how you doing?
Hey, Zeb, good morning. How are you?
Nice to have you on the program. Now, I got to ask you, Matt, how was it being on Stossel's program? Is he a pretty decent guy?
Yeah, he's actually a really nice guy. He came to speak at Hofstra, and he gave a great talk, and then I had the opportunity of being on the show a couple months later, and he was really nice the whole time. The show was great, and then he actually invited me to a movie afterwards, so I got to hang out with him, and it was a great time all around.
Let me ask you a question about universities right now, and I know I'm off subject a little bit, but it's very important. You go to Hofstra University, and the only reason I've ever heard of Hofstra University, quite frankly, is because, and this puts some age on me, and you probably won't know this, but Bill Cosby, you've heard of Bill Cosby, the comedian, have you not?
Yes, sir, I have.
Bill Cosby, in his earlier recordings when he was a comedian, he used to tell jokes about when he played football for Temple University, and they played Hofstra. Does Hofstra still have a football team?
Unfortunately, about 3 or 4 years ago, we have cut our football team, and so we no longer have football at Hofstra.
Oh, man. Well, so you got a basketball team, though, don't you?
We do have a basketball team. We're doing pretty good this year. We're heading into the CAA tournament next week, and I'm hoping that we'll win and we'll get a berth in the NCAA tournament. We'll see what happens.
All right, now what kind of a school is Hofstra? Because we hear so much in the news about the very liberalized colleges and universities, and I just heard a story this morning that made me infuriated, and that's Rutgers University decided that they wanted to cancel Condoleezza Rice from speaking at their commencement because they just didn't want her, I guess as a conservative, speaking in front of the students. What are your thoughts about what's Hofstra like? Is it very liberal? Is it conservative? What's the mode of thought back there?
Sure, yeah. So we hear a lot of these stories about ultra-liberal schools and you know, stopping people from coming to speak, and the professors are just kind of lecturing in class about what their ideology is. And Hofstra, we do have a lot of liberal professors in the economics and political science department, but the great thing about my school, and I'm very proud to say this, is that they're open to different ideas, and they love engaging with the students and debating. And so even when I'm trying to talk about the things that I believe in class with a very liberal professor, they're willing to engage me on it, and they're open to the idea. There's been no animosity at Hofstra. It's a very open community. We're able to have a lot of good conversations. We bring a lot of speakers that represent really all different types of political ideologies, and so I'm very proud of my school. But there is this general consensus that higher education does lean left. And even that is true at Hofstra, but at least we have the opportunity to continue to speak our mind and learn about the things that we want to learn about.
What about Matt LaCourte? What do you want to do when you leave Hofstra? I mean, you must have goals, ambitions, and futuristic ideas of where you want to be 10 years from now. Is politics going to be a base for you?
I don't know. You know, I'm a junior at school now. I need to figure that out. I have a year left of school, but I don't know. I guess if I was to say in 10 years where I want to be, I want to be changing the world in some way. And whether that's in politics or whether that's in policy or whether that's in academia, I don't know. The question is kind of still up in the air for me. I'm trying to figure all that stuff out. But I want to continue to get involved in political and economic issues and continue to talk about ideas that are important to me and go out there and change the world in some way. I think that is something that a lot of young millennials are interested in. We don't really know what we want to do specifically, but we have really large goals, and my goal is to go out there and change the world, and we'll see how that happens.
All right, now when you say change the world, I mean, we have seen in the last 5 years, Matt, and I don't have to tell you this, you're a very astute young man, but we have seen a transformation of America that I don't like. I've seen a transformation of this country that I absolutely can't stand, and it makes me absolutely scared to death what Obama and this administration have done to get away from our Constitution, get away from progress, and get away from being the strongest, most respected country in the world. Do you disagree or agree with me?
I think that there are things that are happening that we are seeing right now that are highlighted by the Obama administration that are extremely dangerous. But I do think that it's not only a specific problem with the Obama administration, but with this notion that was really started under, it's really been starting for a while, but it was highlighted with George Bush, and it has only gotten worse and incredibly exacerbated by the Obama administration, and only is going to get worse with this budget that he put out today that I'm here to talk about. And so it is scary to think about where we are headed. But I've said this before, and I'm going to continue to say it, Zeb. I'm very optimistic about the future. And I think that there's a lot of young people out there that really want a true change in the direction of progress and of innovation and of helping our neighbor and being there to change the world, and knowing that our parents have made a lot of mistakes in voting different candidates in and voting for policies and allowing government to get so big. And this generation is going to be the generation that overturns all of that and gets us back on track to being not only the greatest country in the world, but continuing to push the ideas of liberty all around the world. We're going to change the world, and I think that's the best thing about this generation.
Well, I absolutely admire your thoughts, and I say go get 'em, Tiger. But first, you need more than just Matt LaCourte. You need a whole bunch of people to feel that way, because right now, Obama is proposing spending another $302 billion on a transportation bill. And I got to be honest with you, Matt, where in the world is this money going to come from except from out of my billfold?
Well, there's an interesting mechanism that they're talking about for funding this bill, or this part of the spending bill that Obama is sending to Congress today. It's $302 billion, as you stated, and roughly half of that, $150 billion, Obama says is coming by ending some sort of tax breaks for businesses and reforming part of the corporate tax. However, we both know that this is just complete fantasy. Politicians on both sides of the aisle have, expressed concerns and doubts about this ever even being on the table. There's no way that in this political standstill right now, with the gridlock that we have, that we're going to be able to get this type of spending passed. So we can argue about and talk about this bill and the $302 billion for transportation funding over the next 4 years, but in reality, there's no way it's going to be funded in the way that Obama says it's going to be funded. So either we're looking at something that's just not going to happen, or it's just going to be $300 that emerge from your pocket, my pocket, and the pockets of all Americans around the country.
Okay, what is he proposing? I mean, is this an infrastructure program? I know it's for roads, bridges, and public transit, but let's be real honest here, Matt, that why spend $302 billion on transportation when the common man, like me and you, unless you're very wealthy and a multimillionaire, the common man is finding themselves locked into a position with escalating fuel and transportation prices. They're not going anywhere. They're not even hardly able to drive to the grocery store or take their kids maybe to a baseball game or whatever. And why spend this kind of money when the infrastructure says, hey, the American public, they're not traveling because they can't afford the pain at the pump?
That's a really good point that you make there, Zeb, because I think that the Obama administration and a lot of progressives kind of pitch these big infrastructure transportation projects as getting Americans out there, mobile, on the move, being able to travel around the country. But we've seen 40 years of Amtrak that Americans are not interested in that type of mobility. We're such a large country. They think that we're similar to Japan or China or Europe, where cities are so close to each other. And when you take out the New York to Washington, D.C. part of Amtrak, no other train in the country is even close to turning a profit. Only New York to Washington, D.C. And who travels New York to D.C.? It's wealthy people. It's people who don't already need subsidies. We spend tens and tens of billions of dollars on Amtrak subsidies, assuming that these people are not able to travel. And we're only subsidizing politicians and people who are already well off. This is not helping the people that we really need to help. If we're going to talk about public transportation and true infrastructure, you're not talking about trains that are traveling 150 miles per hour from major cities. You're talking about inner city small trip infrastructure, which this bill does nothing to even touch. All it's doing is giving handouts to friends and firms that are on Capitol Hill. It's nothing but more crony capitalism from the Obama administration, and it's not going to do anything to help taxpayers or help travelers. here in this country.
Think about this, my dear young man, and I look at you as a friend because of your open-mindedness and your youth that could absolutely help us in the future. But look at the United States in its entirety, and look at your areas of mass transit, which are, of course, your New Yorks, your Philadelphias, your Bostons, possibly your LAs, your Seattles, and your Portlands. But the infrastructure that needs to happen in the internal part of our country, with our farming that feeds the world, and people that are part of communities and small businesses, mass transit and a $302 billion transportation bill isn't going to help them at all unless we get gas prices and energy prices at a point where they can make a living and be contributing taxpayers.
Yes, you're absolutely right. And what the president's proposal doesn't touch at all is gas prices. And it doesn't touch gas taxes or ways that we fund our highway system in the middle of our country. And it really only concentrates on very, very small minority of Americans. And it's $300 billion. It's being funded by this accounting trick that no one or everyone knows is not actually going to work. And it's going to be put on the table, and the Obama administration is pushing it. They're lying for this in order to appeal to voters, is that this is a vision for a 21st century infrastructure. And it is just completely not true. As you just have stated with your last two questions, there are so many holes in this proposal. If this was 1950, then we are on the cutting edge. But in 2014, we are so behind the times, and we're only continuing to push the status quo and help out friends of the government. This is nothing to help the real people, the real Americans that make this country. This is just some political handouts for friends, and it's terrible that is what our president is putting on the table and what we are supposed to be debating now, when we should be debating real substantive policy changes and real infrastructure and real transportation projects, and not what we're doing right now.
Matt, let me ask you this, and let's forget the age difference between us. But is this man and his administration, are they that naive? Are they that unknowledgeable? Are they that protected in their little bubble of socialistic ideas and ideals where they've never been anywhere into the hinterland? They've never got their hands dirty. They really don't know how to work. They really don't know how small businesses have to grovel to try to make a living. Are they this naive, or is this a clandestine plan?
You know, I think that this is reminiscent of what politics is in its most inherent state, and that these people in the Obama administration realize that 21st century infrastructure, a vision to help our country, these things, they sound good, and they sound like they're going to be helping the world. And that is just all politics is getting reelected and getting back in office and being able to push your own interests. And these politicians are extremely self-interested. And President Obama is pushing exactly what he is pushing because he knows who his base is and who the electorate is and what they want to hear. This is just politics. This is them trying to do whatever they want to get reelected and continue to have control in the country. It's not for the well-being of the people. It's not government for the people, by the people. This is an elitist form of government, telling people how they're going to travel, and we know what's best for everyone, and we know where you're going to travel, so we're going to fund that project. This has nothing to do with what actual people want. It's not honest or sincere, transparent government. It's crony capitalism. It's failing us for our infrastructure and our transportation, and it's so damaging to the American people. And it's a shame. And I don't want to speculate on what the president's internal motivations are here. But I have to imagine he looks at this and he looks and says, well, we need to spend money. I think he really does think that spending money is the key, which is an inherently flawed idea when it comes to economics. But he thinks he has to spend money. And well, let's just throw $300 billion at our transportation problem. Well, what's the worst that's going to happen? It has to help in some way. So he thinks that he's helping people. He thinks that he's appealing to what the electorate really wants. But he has no idea about economics. He has no idea what people want on the ground. And he has no experience. And you add all those things up together, you get where we are today, and that's just a complete mess.
If I were your age, and I'm serious when I say this, and I never back up. When I say something, I mean it. I don't apologize. If I were your age, I would be outraged. I would be standing out in the middle of the street yelling and screaming at the idiocy and the incompetency of this administration, putting you And your generation, possibly by the time you get out of school, $20 trillion in debt. This is asinine. This is completely stupid and frivolous, and it's a waste of our future. Would you agree?
100%. 100%. And that's $20 trillion that you know, that's on the conservative side. We don't know where this budget, where this deficit, and where this national debt is going to go. And now with Obamacare, with Medicare costs, Social Security, so many new programs, and $300 billion for transportation now. That's completely unfundable. I mean, where is this deficit going? And it seems like it's never ending. And the White House is pushing this number, 500-something billion, that it's the smallest deficit in the entire Obama administration. And I mean, this is where we're at in our politics, where $500 billion is something that we can get excited about. It's dangerous, and it makes me nervous to think about the future. But I like to think of the fact that, well, I'm 21 years old, and hopefully by the time that I get to a more adult age, that we'll have turned this thing around. But it is very scary, and young people realize this. We recognize the fact that Social Security, expecting Social Security for what we put in the system, we're not going to get that money back. We're expecting major problems in the future, but this is what we're going to grow up as. At least we're going to have our entire, teen and early adult age to realize what's happening with our government. Hopefully we'll be able to prepare for that. But it's scary to think about the future. It's intimidating to think what's going to happen with our national debt and where that leaves us. Because once those payments that we spend every single month on the national debt, right now interest rates for those payments are at historic lows. Once those rise, you're looking at massive more deficits because we're not taking into account how much we have to pay off the national debt. And so it's a lot. It's a lot to take in. It's a scary thought, and it's something that we really need to start taking head on. We have to stop pushing this into the future. We have to do it now. It's going to be painful, but we need to approach our economics in this country and be honest with each other nowadays.
Let me ask you a final thought here, Matthew, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but as a young person that's going to be taking over the reins from us, you need to be put on the spot. Are you developing a coalition of other younger people like yourself that have the same thought, the same premonition as to how dangerous this spend is? Are you forming power sources so that politically you can make a dent in this and change things and turn it around? Is that what you're doing? Because you can't do it as a single entity.
Sure, and you're right, Zeb. And what we're doing right now is it's a very exciting project. I'm part of a group that's called Students for Liberty. We're an international pro-liberty student organization. And a lot of people always say that young people, they don't have any teeth when it comes to politics, right? All the policies are determined by old folks, right? But our young people right now in this country, and I've talked about millennials a lot, we see the problems and we have solutions for these problems. Students for Liberty is an exciting organization that's seen absolutely tremendous growth over the last 7 years, and we're only continuing to grow. And this is the coalition that's going to be built, that's going to take on, the spending and all the problems that we see in this country. Young people all around the world are standing up to sort of these big government policies. And I know that it's tough to see that. When we look out and we see what's going on in our world, we see this budget that Obama's sending to Congress today, we see everything that's changing with Obamacare, we really, it looks dim. And it's understandable that it looks so dim, but there are so many, millions and millions of young people that are saying, no, I don't like what's happening with our country, I don't like what's happening with our government, and I'm resisting this kind of federal takeover of everything, right? And so the Harvard Institute of Politics put out a poll last November. They do it every single year, and they have seen more people come out in support of pro-liberty policies, in support of the Constitution, and not in support of President Obama. Really interesting study that a lot of people don't know is 52% of young people responding last fall. 52% say that they would remove the president from office if they could. Half of young people, which is a major number. So the young people, millennials in this country, the people that are under 30, college students specifically, are resisting the president, are resisting big government, and are really ready to change things. And it may not happen in the next election, it may not happen in the next 2 elections, but down the line, we're going to see some major changes in this country because young people are standing up to the idea that government has the solution to everything. They're saying no. They're saying that entrepreneurs, they're saying that putting rules on government, and they're saying that living the life according to how we want to live is the way to go. This is the future, and this is what groups like Students for Liberty are doing to push this new idea. Freedom is very popular amongst young people. It's hard to see, but it really is, and we're going to do everything that we can to change what has happened to this government.
Wow. I feel refreshed. I feel reinvigorated, and I feel like you're really a sharp guy. I like you, Matt LaCourte. Come back and talk to us again in the future. You're always welcome on this program. Thank you for taking the time out this morning, and I'll give you a call and have you back, okay?
Great. Thanks, Ed. Have a good one.
You too. Thank you, sir. Wow. I mean, what other word sums it up? There's a young man that's got his ducks in a row, and he's got others with their ducks in a row, too. Hofstra University in New York, and that guy's going to go out and make a name for himself and try to, as he said, change the world for the better. Lead on, Matt LaCourte. Good guy. Hey, don't forget Pro Paint, 1116 Overland Avenue in Burley, 25th anniversary sale. Oh, the best paint, the best stains, the best advice from Barbara and Brian, and they're always helping you. You know, oh, this color looks good. They'll help you and give you advice on how to decorate your home and make it look really good for spring. That's right. They've got all the Pittsburgh paints and the industrial paints for the farm equipment. And, of course, don't forget, they always say they've got the best paint, the best stains, and the best advice. Right there at Pro Paint, 1116 Overland in Burley. You stop in for their 25th anniversary sale today, okay? And don't forget, too, our friends at Cameron and Siemens Insurance. Hello, Dean. Hello, Todd. My goodness sakes, I tell you what, they're a stalwart on our program, and we really appreciate them. When it comes to life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, employee benefits, everything you need to protect yourself, your home, your family, of course, your business, you'd better call them because they're very conscientious and dedicated to serving you and what you need, okay? Number to call, 436-4424. That number again, 436-4424. And that's Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. You call them right now, okay? Had a little public service note I got to get on here real quick, and if I can get my list over here on my desk, which is never messy. On Thursday, the Raft River High School rodeo team is holding their annual dinner and auction. That's going to be this Thursday at 6:30 p.m. at the Raft River High School. Cost of the dinner is by donation, and all the funds raised will help the kids pay rodeo entry fees and to help those who qualify to compete at the state rodeo. Lead on, Raft River High School rodeo team. Hope your dinner is a complete success. Absolutely. Oh, by the way, complete success. That leads me up to talk to and about our next sponsor on the program, and that happens to be Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. Wow, 67th anniversary spectacular, 67 years, and this is a dynamic sale for you. No money down, no interest until June 2014 on approved credit. And I'm telling you, you better stop in there and check out the adjustable bed. And they've got all the bedroom features, the mattresses, the beds. They've got everything in bedroom sets. They've got the very best in carpet. Now, they've got 3 different qualifications. Good, better, and their best. And all the vinyl floor covering, everything you need to beautify your home. Absolutely take the time and stop in to Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More for their 67th anniversary spectacular at 459 Overland in Burley. Really nice people. Okay, let's go to the phone lines, and I believe with us next, I got to get my papers shuffled around here. Holy smokes, I'm like a card dealer down in Las Vegas all of a sudden. I got to get all this stuff taken care of. We have a person on the phone line by the name of Chris Hackett. Good morning, Chris. How are you today?
Excellent, Zeb. Thank you for having me this morning.
Well, it's really good to have you on the program because you're going to be talking about preparedness. And first of all, let's give it a little background on you and who you represent and why you're on the show. Give us a little background, a little bio on yourself. Go ahead.
Sure. I work with the Property Casualty Insurers Association, and we're a not-for-profit trade association that represents property and casualty insurance companies who write insurance throughout the nation, including homeowners and auto and workers' comp and commercial lines. And specifically, I work in the public policy area with our property insurance committee, and we work on public policy issues that impact property insurance, both at the state and the federal level.
Okay. Now, and I'm going to ask you to speak directly into your phone really loud if you could, or a little bit louder, because I'm having a hard time hearing you this morning. Preparedness for severe weather. Now, a lot of people might say, we're through the winter now, we don't have to worry about it. But no, March and April and May, we're looking at possibly late winter snowstorms, bad roads, we're looking at wind, we're looking at tornadoes. Boy, there's a lot to worry about, isn't there?
Definitely, and severe weather can occur at any time, as you mentioned, and PCI is proud to support National Severe Weather Preparedness Week in conjunction with NOAA and FEMA. And basically, this is an awareness campaign to promote public safety and to minimize property damage from natural catastrophes. And there are steps that homeowners and businesses can take before, during, and after a natural disaster in order to, be better prepared for when a natural disaster occurs, not if. It's just usually a matter of time. And there are just several common sense steps that everyone can take, such as, reviewing your insurance policy at regular intervals with your insurance agent. It's important to know that standard homeowners insurance policy typically does not include coverage for flood damage or earthquake damage. So you should, explore those options for coverage with your insurance agent if you live in a geographic area that's at risk for those kinds of losses.
Right.
It's, a good idea to create a detailed inventory of your personal property and your possessions. So if you make major purchases of furniture, electronics, it's a good idea to hold on to those receipts and even take photographs of your possessions if you go from room to room. And it's a good idea to, store those in a safe place just in case there is a major event. That information would be very helpful to the claims adjuster in adjusting your claim.
Oh, and stop right there, Chris. Chris, let me interrupt you for a second, Chris.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, let me interrupt you on occasion because you bring up good points, and I don't want you to gloss over them so that we can talk about them a little bit. I'll bet you, and tell me I'm wrong, but I would bet you that there's less than, I'd guess 20% of the American public that would have taken the time to itemize, categorize, and film everything in their home for that kind of a possible disaster. Am I right or wrong?
No, I think you're right. I think, very few people take the time to do it, and, that's part of our Severe Weather Preparedness Week campaign is to spread the word about how to, best prepare yourself for natural disasters. And part of that is to just take a look around and see exactly what you own. And I think you're likely to find that you have a lot more personal possessions than you would ever imagine if you really take a look at everything. And, keep those photographs and, receipts and descriptions of those major purchases. It will definitely help you if you do have to, make a big claim.
What about the other side of the coin, though, Chris? And we just saw some of this happen in California this week with the torrential downpour, the mudslides, and everything else. I mean, somebody that thinks they've got a policy that's going to cover everything in their home, and they haven't taken the time to itemize and categorize and make a list and keep the receipts and everything. Boy, it must be absolutely a nightmare to those people to try to get their claims turned in.
It could be overwhelming, especially if there's a major loss like that, and someone has lost their home and has to piece together exactly what they owed, what they own from scratch, and think about it from room to room. throughout their house. And that's why it's definitely worth taking the time, to take an inventory and put it away in a safe place, like in a safe deposit box or someplace where you'll be able to access it later. And if there is a big event later on, it will be well worth your while to have that information at your fingertips.
Absolutely. Okay, so if we had a torrential downpour like they do in California, you better have everything categorized, everything on film, etc. What else? You've got me really interested in this preparedness. What else do I need to know?
Everyone should have an emergency storm kit ready to go. And, you should have, a supply of your medication, flashlights, batteries, an emergency NOAA radio, maybe a supply of bottled water, and supplies for your pets, which are, easy to overlook, especially in an emergency situation. So following an event that, may be very difficult to go to the pharmacy, and get your medication, particularly if there's, a power outage. And it's a good idea to keep a little cash aside because, ATMs, won't be working if there is a power outage. And just anything else that you use on a daily basis, you just think about your daily routine and what you would need in the span of 48 hours, 72 hours if there were a major event, and then just create a storm kit and just keep it aside, especially during the tornado season. And if you're in the coastal areas during hurricane season, it's good to have that ready to go, and something right at your fingertips that you don't have to spend a lot of time organizing.
I have a dear friend that occasionally comes on this program and talks about preparedness. Her name is Sharon Hardy Mills, and she, like you, has talked about a storm kit and what you should have in it, from some clothes and medication and things like that. But also, a list of your medication in case something happens and you're away from home longer than you anticipate and other things. We have a caller, and we'll talk more about this in just a second. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
Yes, good morning, gentlemen. I was curious about this detailed list of, I have a collection of probably 500,000 sports cards, and taking a picture of each valuable card and the condition it's in. Is there a certain insurance that covers collectibles or information like that, and I'll get off the air.
All right, sir. I appreciate your call. Chris, that gentleman brought up a good point right there. All the collectibles, something that can't be replaced, like a sports card memorabilia file that's worth a lot of money, and I don't know, you sound younger than me, but I'll tell you what happened in my case. Back about 15 years ago, my mother went up into the attic at our home that I was born and raised in back in Wisconsin, and she went through the attic and she threw away my entire baseball card collection that included all the originals of like Mickey Mantle, Roger Maris, Hank Aaron, Stan Musial, all the originals dating way back into those days, and they were worth a ton of money. What do you do in a case like that where you've got a very important and prestigious hobby of maybe collecting those cards? How can you ever replace that?
That's a great question, and what you can do is typically buy optional additional coverage through something that's called a scheduled personal property endorsement. So typically under your basic homeowner's policy there will be limitations for certain items. So, for jewelry, for example, there may be like a $1,500 limitation for that. But if you schedule a jewelry item, whether it's a valuable watch or a ring, and have it appraised. You can have it insured for, its full value. So if you have a, $5,000 watch or ring, if, you were to lose that, or if it were stolen, then you would, be covered for, the full amount of the item. And as far as collectibles with, baseball card collections, stamp collections, coin collections, fine arts, cameras, fur coats, other things can be scheduled and added to your homeowner's insurance policy for an additional premium. And usually, you'd have to have an appraisal for whatever item or items, you wish to schedule. And that will ensure that you're fully protected, should something happen to your collection.
Yeah, but something, I'm almost of the volition when that gentleman called regarding that very, very expensive, if you will, baseball card or memorabilia card collection. The house and the home is not the place to store that. I'm almost convinced it needs to be in a lockbox someplace where it can be very secure. That's not a bad idea. A safe deposit box at a bank, typically very secure, and might be an appropriate place to keep something like that. I want to get back just for a second to your storm kit, because I think that is so important, and it doesn't necessarily have to be just over a storm. It could be the electricity has gone out in the middle of winter and you need to run to a motel so you don't freeze to death, or it could be anything with, good heavens, Lord help us, maybe an attack on our country that you need to leave the area or whatever. That storm kit, how many days worth of preparation do you really need in those storm kits?
That's a great question, and it probably really depends upon the circumstances of the particular disaster that we may be facing. But it's a good idea to have at least maybe 3 to 5 days worth of supplies, with you, and obviously depending upon the situation and its severity. You may be better off having, a lengthier supply than that.
And where is the best place to store that kit? Is it in your vehicle? Is it on your back porch by the back door? Where's the best place to put it?
Any place where it's easily accessible and where everybody in your family knows where it is. So if you're not home, your significant other or your kids will be able to access it easily.
Okay. Now, Chris, what else have we got? We got about 2 or 3 minutes left in this segment. What else do we need to know about severe weather planning and being prepared? Wrap it up for me, if you would, please.
Sure. I would just say that, it's important to heed any evacuation warnings that local authorities may give you. Property can be replaced, but people can't. So there's no reason to put yourself at risk. Please, pay attention to those warnings. And, there are other steps that you can take to mitigate the risk of damage to your home. You can, fortify your windows and your doors and your roof to try to reduce the possibility of damage to your home in a natural catastrophe. If you're in a tornado-prone area or a wildfire-prone area, we have tips on our website, PCIAA.net, which will give you specific tips on what to do to prepare for those specific natural disasters. Typically in a tornado-prone area, you may want to consider getting a storm shelter or trimming tree branches that hang over your home. In windstorms, it's important to put away your barbecue and your patio furniture. They can become airborne during a natural disaster and become very dangerous. If you're in a wildfire-prone area, make sure you trim the dry brush from around your home. Clear your gutters of the dry debris and sticks and leaves, and just use common sense to prepare for the worst, but obviously hope for the best. after a natural disaster, you should only return after the local authorities say it's safe for you to do so. And, once you confirm, that you do have storm damage, go ahead and contact your insurance company and, take an inventory of your losses and photograph any damage. And I would say that it's important to choose a reputable contractor after a property damage claim.
Oh, there's a lot of fly-by-nights.
Some unscrupulous individuals that may come in and try to exploit a situation after a natural disaster. And it's just good to get recommendations from family and friends on contractors, and make sure you don't pay in cash. Make sure you pay with a check or a credit card just to create a record of your payment.
Absolutely. I tell you what, Chris, great job. And the last part of it was oh so true, because after a disaster, and we heard it happen down in Florida, we heard it happen on the East Coast, we've heard it happen in Louisiana, absolutely there's a lot of fly-by-night contractors that come in and, your money is gone and the work's not done. So I appreciate your conversation this morning, and thank you for coming on the program and come back again. Chris Hackett, thank you.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me, Zeb.
All right, sir. Have a wonderful day. Thank you much. Interesting about preparedness, and boy, he brought up a lot of good points about that emergency kit, as Sharon's talked on the air about that on occasion. And then also, after there has been something as a emergency, a fire, a flood, whatever, be careful of all those little low-life construction firms that just look for something like this, and be careful and be choosy about who you hire to fix everything. Be really cautious. We've got to have a weather update. Holy smokes, we're running late. And the weather this hour is brought to you by our friends at Red's Trading Post, 203 5th Avenue South in Twin Falls. Ryan and the rest of the crew. Oh, my goodness. Purchase a firearm from Red's Trading Post and receive training bucks from both LMS Defense, that's a great outfit, and Shaw Shooting to use in their rifle and pistol training courses. Oh, man, that is fantastic. Right through Red's Trading Post at 203 5th Avenue South in Twin Falls. For all your guns, all your ammo, all your accessories, it's Red's Trading Post. And here now is Michael Rogers with the weather.
Hi, everybody. Michael Rogers for MichaelRogersWeather.com. Not a bad day for today. Sun and clouds, partly cloudy tonight. Chance of showers for tomorrow. Temperatures on the mild side, almost like spring weather. But not yet. We're almost to spring, but not yet. We are officially and still are in winter. Sorry about that, but we're going to be done here real quick, so hang in there. Shouldn't be a bad day today. Temperatures should be, for a daytime high, right around 57, 59, low around in the upper 30s. Have a great day. Enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
All right, Michael. Thank you very much. And thanks to Ryan and the crew at Red's Trading Post, 203 5th Avenue South in Twin Falls. All your guns, all your ammo, all your accessories right there with the best at Red's Trading Post, 203 5th Avenue South in Twin Falls. We haven't said one single time this morning, good morning to Gina. How are you, Gina?
I am doing well. How are you?
I'll bet you don't know what day this is.
Today is the 4th.
Yeah. It's the beginning of Mardi Gras.
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
And
in Louisiana.
Yeah, and tomorrow is what?
Tomorrow's Ash Wednesday.
Ash Wednesday. There you go. You're catching up to speed now. I got you on the same tracks. There you go.
Yep.
Have you ever been to Mardi Gras?
I've participated for Mardi Gras Moscow style, but not in New Orleans.
Now, how does one, this leads open questions, how does one celebrate Mardi Gras, which is primarily a New Orleans mess? How did you celebrate that up at the University of Idaho? Or dare I not ask?
Actually, I usually had to work. We did pass out beads and things like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but a lot of the Mardi Gras up in Moscow is a fundraiser for a lot of the children's programs that go on in that area.
Oh, no, that's nice.
Fundraiser.
That's nice.
So it is a big debauchery among the adults. There's live bands at every establishment that participates in it, and that was actually this last weekend in Moscow.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, the real thing in New Orleans, I would
love to go to that.
The word that you use, debauchery, I think that's a fair word.
Yeah, I've seen pictures. That's all I've seen is pictures, but it seems like it would be a lot of fun, at least to experience once in my life.
Well, you see, we had this grand idea when I was a senior in high school. My buddies Jeff and Ron and Steve, we were all going to, Jeff had a boat, okay? We were going to go down the Mississippi River because the Mississippi's real close to where I was born and raised. We were going to go all the way down the Mississippi to Mardi Gras and then come back.
And what did your parents think about this one?
That was part of the problem.
Exactly, that's what I kind of thought. And traveling all the way down the Mississippi in early March, probably not the best idea.
No, we had it all planned out. Of course, when you're 18 and you think you're 10 foot tall and bulletproof and invincible, it was going to be a great idea. And then my buddy Jeff's dad got involved, and for some strange reason, he called the other parents and decided that we would put the kibosh on it, and that was the end of our Mardi Gras trip.
And you've not been yet either, have you?
No, I never did get down there. I've been to New Orleans, but I've never been there for Mardi Gras ever.
I think it would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think so too.
At least once in somebody's lifetime, you got to go and experience it.
Yeah, and they showed pictures. I guess Bourbon Street is already alive and well.
Already?
Oh, yeah. Started last night, and there was enough on the streets. They were just picking it up with pitchforks, let me tell you.
Yeah, I guess it is noon down there, so, you know.
But yeah, on your bucket list, that brings to mind a good question real quick, and I've got to do a commercial. But you're a lot younger than I am, but do you have a bucket list of things that you want to do?
Oh, sure. I would like to go and experience Mardi Gras. I would like to go to Sturgis once. I want to go to Ireland. I would love to go to Australia. And that's all that's on my bucket list.
Yeah, it's interesting now because 3 of those are on mine, too. I want to go to Sturgis. I want to go to Sturgis. I want to go to Mardi Gras. And I really want to go to Australia.
I think Australia would be cool.
Yeah. Well, it's not cool.
Well, it is in the wintertime here because down there it's summertime.
There you go. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, see, now I know what your bucket list is like. In my bucket list, I got to make a short list because I'm older than you.
Have you gotten your trike yet? Have you been looking on that?
We've been looking. But then I've got to save my nickels and dimes after all the money I had spent in January trying to replace a leg. And so, therefore, we're still looking. Still looking.
So it's been pushed back to, like, item number 777 on the list.
You're right.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Hey, don't forget Let's Ride. And then we talk about Let's Ride. How fitting, how apropos. Let's Ride, Highway 24 between Rupert and Burley, open Tuesdays through Saturdays 9 to 6, where the fun is sold. Holy cow, I'll tell you what, they've got all the ATVs. Spring's right around the corner. You better get in and check them out. And if you've got ATVs, you better get them in there and get them serviced in their parts and service department. They've got the best guys in the valley for that. And don't forget, too, they got dirt bikes for the young at heart, and they've got great rebates and good interest rates right now on ATVs. Stop in. Let's Ride. Highway 24 between Rupert and Burley, where the fun is sold. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Jeff, a couple years ago, I started riding road bikes, and it's just been the most liberating thing that I do. Because I don't have to have somebody to pull me if I'm water skiing, or I don't have to have a lift to lift me up the hill to go skiing. All I got to do is just get my gear on, and I can go anywhere. And it's just the most liberating thing I do, and it's so therapeutic.
Yeah, well, I feel the same way. A guy needs to get away. I mean, you just got to get away from the rat race because the rats are winning, and you got to either get on a bike, or you got to get on an ATV and just get lost up in the mountains, or get on a horse and get lost up in the mountains. But sometimes, and I try to do it at least once a week in the summertime, just get lost. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, it is. it's I don't know how to explain it, but it's so fun. And riding on the road, like you guys are talking about going to Sturgis, and I've not been to Sturgis. I went to Laughlin last April, and then I rode to Coeur d'Alene with my son, and we did those in one-day rides. And so we were dead serious, but it was still so fun. And then when you're there, you can travel around, and curvy roads are fun, and it's just a great experience.
Absolutely. Now, did you let your hair grow and put on phony tattoos and everything so you fit in?
No, I don't try to be anything up myself. I don't try to be rebellious and all that crap. I just wanted to just ride. It's just so much fun, and even on a sunny day and doing errands, it's fun. And if you get a trike and riding to Coeur d'Alene, for instance, from here up through, from Eagle on up through McCall, and off all that way. It's a beautiful ride. Absolutely.
Listen, man, I got to go to the news, but now I'm going to play that song, Get Your Motor Running. All right, buddy, take care. Have a good day.
Right.
Thank you. I've got to run to the news, which is an oxymoron. Me run? Are you kidding? And I'll be back in 6. Don't go away. Oh, we're back. Yes, we are. Hey, blue sky out there on Tuesday morning. Zeb at the Ranch, and of course we're brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, along with some of our great advertisers like Lee's Furniture, Floors and More at 459 Overland in Burley. And don't forget Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Call them today. Get on the route service, 734-6969. Before we go with our guest, I want to remind you about 2 wonderful businesses that have helped sponsor school days in Cassia County every Thursday right here on my program. And they are A Child's World at 1308 Overland Avenue in Burley and Ambulatory Surgery Center in Burley. First of all, for A Child's World, don't forget they've got a wonderful new line of children's books and a great fun game called Spot has just arrived. They've got all the infant shoes and many, many spring clothes, and they always gift wrap for free. Where? At A Child's World, your family store, 1308 Overland Avenue in Burley. And then don't forget, too, Ambulatory Surgery Center of Burley, 1344 Highland Avenue. You can save literally hundreds of dollars with outstanding care, as people have been served for over 14 years at the Ambulatory Surgery Center. Eye surgeries in the Minnecasia area are performed there, and, of course, life-saving colonoscopies are performed there, too. Call 677-8888. Ambulatory Surgery Center of Burley and A Child's World, bringing you school days in Cassia County. Oh my goodness. He takes a week off and he comes back all suntanned and wearing his khaki shorts and his black knee-high socks. Here he is, Dr. History.
Good morning, Zeb.
Hello, buddy.
That sort of describes it. It was warm.
Now, where were you exactly?
Well, I hate to tell you, we were in the Caribbean.
Oh.
Pretty miserable.
Yeah, but I can bet. Now, tell me a little bit about the Caribbean, not just encompass it with one word. Where exactly were you?
San Juan, Puerto Rico, Barbados, St. Martin, St. Thomas, St. Lucia, St. John. And I did study some history while I was there.
Oh, I'll bet you did.
Basically, there were 2 tribes of Indians that were native to some of those islands. There was one group that was kind of the good, kind of Christian-type people, and then there was the other group that if you went to dinner with them, you might be on the menu.
Oh, I see.
So if you got shipwrecked on one of those islands, you would hope to be taken to dinner by the good guys.
So in other words, it was a fast food drive-in and you were the main entree.
Yes, it could have been.
Okay. Well, you know what?
It was a great trip. It's interesting.
Well, I'm so glad you had a good trip, and I'm jealous. But now that you're back, we got to get back in the historical mode with Dr. History. What are we going to talk about this week?
Well, I'm going to talk about the steamboats on the old Missouri, Mississippi, the old steamboats that started and how they went and how they ended, basically.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
That's where we're going to start.
All right,
we're going
sir.
to go back to April of 1877. There was a guy by the name of James F. Walker, and he was only about 9 years old. He got on a steamboat called the Penina at the thriving Missouri river port of Bismarck. Now, his destination was Fort Berthold, where his dad was actually going to be employed by the government. Now, the river, he said, was a boiling, swirling, eddying current of animated mud. And if you've ever seen that river, it is muddy, no doubt. But shortly after leaving Bismarck, the paddle wheeler became stuck on a sandbar and had to be grasshoppered off with two huge spars, which were, I guess, as much a part of the equipment on a steamboat on the upper Missouri as anything. And when he described that, I'm assuming they put those down and kind of, like a grasshopper, just kind of grasshoppered the boat off the sandbar.
I believe so.
I'm just kind of using my imagination on how they did that. But anyway, so that night after the boat pulled into the shore and the passengers had gone to bed, a fire broke out in the ship's laundry room, but it got put out by the crew. So the next day, the Penina pushed into shore to replenish her fuel supply of wood at a wood station. Well, as they were parked along the bank, part of the bank gave way and literally pinned the ship to the shore. So the Penina was dug out and the voyage continued. And so thus the Penina basically encountered on its route, on its trip, just a few of the hundreds of hazards that faced these daring rivermen who piloted the steamboats on the Missouri. And, I mean, there were a lot of other things that could go wrong, too, but what is now North Dakota actually plays kind of a vital role in any story of steamboating on the river. There was a guy by the name of, and now pay attention to this, Pierre Gaultier de Varennes de la Varendre.
I know him well. As he was known as Smith.
Pierre Smith.
Yeah.
Anyway, he was one of the very first white men to record a visit on the Missouri's banks when he visited a Mandan village in 1738. And what he found that the Indians were using dugout canoes and bull boats, which, you know, those kind of round, flat-bottomed boats.
Right.
And the Indians were using that for river transportation. But it wasn't until later, after Lewis and Clark's expedition in 1804, that the white man began any extensive river traffic. And it was the need for faster transportation, which could haul more goods at less cost, that brought the Missouri paddle wheeler. And, of course, as the fur trade grew, troops were established along the river, and these troops had to be supplied. And, of course, at that time there were no railroads through all that whole territory, through the Missouri and all further west. So the steamer had its work cut out for it. So in 1832, the first steamer reached Fort Union 3 miles above the mouth of the Yellowstone River. So that was quite a ways west, really.
Absolutely.
But it was the American Fur Company's Yellowstone, that's what they named their boat. In 1833, 2 steamers made the upper Missouri voyage, and this pretty well launched off the Missouri River traffic, getting things going. So now we get to about 1859. The first steamer arrived at Fort Benton, and that was about as close as most steamers could get to the Missouri's headwaters. So, but in a few years, there would be as many as 50 steamers docking at Fort Benton, and just as a few more years, the upper river traffic would be pretty much a thing of the past. But for example, docking at Fort Benton in 1867 were 10,000 passengers and 8,000 tons of freight.
Wow. And
this was clear up in Montana. So this was 3,500 miles from the Gulf of Mexico and 2,200 miles from the mouth of the Missouri. So the trip from St. Louis took 2 months, but the return trip only took 2 to 4 weeks.
I see.
Of course, you're going downstream.
Sure.
But it was the magic cry of gold that really spurred this whole explosion. I mean, its discovery in Montana in about 1862, I mean, it brought thousands of people, you know, to the gold fields. And even though the Missouri and the boats were hazardous, it was the fastest way to get to the gold fields. So this Fort Benton became kind of the rendezvous and outfitting point for the entire mining region. And so all its needs were supplied by steamboat.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, it was actually only about 200 miles overland to the mines. So obviously, this was, again, the fastest way to get there. So,
how safe were these steamboats? I mean, I've read stories where all of a sudden they just blow up.
Well, we're going to get to that.
Oh, okay, sorry.
And yes, you're exactly right on with that. But again, for a period of years, only the steamboat could supply the needs of the military and all these miners. So this evolved into the typical Missouri River steamer.
Okay.
And it was designed to go as far up the river as possible, while obviously carrying as much weight, as much cargo as it possibly could. Now, there was one ship called the Far West. It was built in 1870, and probably is a pretty good example of the ideal boat. It was light, it was strong, and it was speedy. Now, the Far West was about 190 feet long and about 33 feet across, and it only needed about 4 feet 6 inches, about 4.5 feet of water when it was completely loaded with 397 tons.
Oh, my goodness.
Of goods. So now when it was empty, it actually only needed about 20 inches of water to go. So it had 3 boilers on it. It had 2 engines, and each engine had a 5-foot piston stroke.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's almost as tall as me. So.
Absolutely.
But, and on top, of course, it had its deck house with the pilot house, and around this pilot house, they actually had some iron plating to protect the pilot or the guy against Indians and arrows and bullets. And
well, that's what I was going to ask you about. Did they have a lot of attacks on the river with Indians when they first saw these boats trying to literally sink the boat and kill the pilot of the boat?
I think initially they did until they got to be so many of them. They realized there was really nothing they could do.
Yeah.
Stop it. So, but these steamers, they would leave out of their home ports like St. Louis, Sioux City, Bismarck, and depending on the progress of the railroads, and of course they had to still wait till the ice was out in the spring to be able to go. And so if there wasn't any unusual flooding or anything, then they could just start heading up the river.
Okay.
But in the short navigation period, that the profits were amazing. I mean, these guys made a lot of money because there were so many attracted to the river traffic, and there were dangers. There were at that one point there were some 450 steamboats that actually wrecked on the Missouri.
Holy cow!
450 that actually went under.
Oh my!
Anyway, in 1876, we're going to talk about our good friend General Custer. During his campaign, the Army actually chartered this boat, the Far West, for $350 a day, which, that was a lot of money.
You're not kidding.
And it was during Custer's campaign that when that all got over with, they took the survivors, which as many as they could, over to this boat, the Far West, and took them down to Bismarck for medical attention.
Yeah, but wait a minute. There weren't any survivors from Custer's last stand.
Well, the other guys.
Oh, okay, all right.
The other troops.
Okay.
Yeah, Custer's. Yeah, they didn't survive. But ironically, although the coming of the railroad to Bismarck in 1873 established that town as kind of the head of the Missouri River transportation, it was kind of the handwriting on the wall for the steamboats, because Bismarck boomed as it became the home port for steamers, supplying the Army, the miners, the settlers with all the stuff they needed through this Northern Pacific Railroad. But as it continued to push westward, and it finally reached Helena, Montana, this kind of was the end, pretty much, of the steamers. They just weren't needed.
How did they generate their power?
Basically, it was all steam-powered motors, steam-powered engines.
Really?
And that was supplied by wood.
And so they must have had a ton, literally tons of wood on board, or did they stop occasionally and just go and chop some trees down? What did they do?
Well, there was a lot of people actually that made a good living by chopping wood on shore and selling it to the steamboats as they would stop.
Oh.
So they could only they didn't want to carry much wood.
I see. I see.
Because that would reduce how much cargo and how many people they could carry.
I see.
So yeah, there was a lot of people that would have these places along the river that they would stop at.
Mm-hmm.
But like I say, it was kind of an era that was ending. It didn't die overnight. Steamers still served a purpose along the river from Bismarck to some of the other areas until the railroads could keep going. And then by about 1904, the gasoline engine kind of took over for the steam engine. The government actually used to have boats they called snag boats that would go up and down the river and pull out, trees and snags so that, to make it safer. But the old steamboats, that was the thing that was important there was it was speed. That was what people wanted. They wanted speed to get to the gold mines, and they didn't want to have to worry about horses and one thing and another. They just wanted to get there. So,
how fast could they go?
I don't know. I know upstream, like I say, it took about 2 months, and coming downstream, 2 to 4 weeks.
Holy cow!
So, and I guess it depended on, if there were floodwaters that were coming faster or slower, but, so they would get these steamboats going, pretty fast. And some of these guys got a little brave, and they would stoke their fires higher and higher, and then they would close the safety valves. To ensure the fastest travel time. Now,
I see.
Not surprisingly, these steamboat captains became known as kind of daredevils, and they would race each other for titles to see who was the fastest boat. Because you can imagine, if you were in St. Louis and you wanted to get up the river, you're not going to go for the guy who's number 5 in the race. You're going to get on the boat that's number 1.
Absolutely.
So, however, from New Orleans to St. Louis, from Louisville, all those places. But this is a time before government inspection and regulations, and there was actually quite a bit of excitement at steamboat races. It was full of danger for these captains, the crews, and the passengers. But that didn't keep the people from laying bets on the winner, and they would turn out in big crowds to watch these races begin and end. And again, they would even, board the ships and pay to be on them. And in fact, I've got a quote here from a guy that was on one of the racing steamboats called the Robert E. Lee, and this boat was racing against what they call the Natchez. And here's what he said. He said, "Finally, the channel apparently narrowed, and the interval was closed rapidly up until with a bump, the two boats collided heavily, almost throwing me from my feet. The guards seemed to groan and tremble, but neither boat gave, and so the two rushed along with rubbing sides.
Oh, my.
I suddenly found myself standing face to face with a passenger on the other boat, and somewhat apparently to his surprise, extended my hand and wished him a good morning. He shook my hand, and remarking that he proposed to leave us, and so on the boats went. He said, I think we must have rushed along in this way for several minutes, but finally they shouldered us out of the channel and gave us a triumphant whistle, shot ahead and down the river, leaving us to follow."
Holy cow. Now, I got to go back, and maybe you're going to cover this in a minute or so, but when those things were so pressurized and they built up the steam and the pressure and all of a sudden, kaboom, there wasn't much left, was there?
No. In fact, there's one story of the owner of a boat. He wanted so badly to win that despite the captain's objections, he went and turned the safety valves off so that they could develop more power, more steam, and it basically blew up the ship. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
And there's other stories where sometimes the crew of one ship would be shooting at the crew of the other ship.
Shooting at the other crew? You mean shooting guns at them?
And other cases where one steamboat would actually come over and ram the guy, the other boat, and push him into the shore or push him into a snag or push him onto a sandbar.
Holy smokes.
It was pretty cutthroat racing at that time.
Sounds like NASCAR back in the 1800s.
It really was. But, it wasn't actually until about 1852 that government regulations began to be imposed on these steamboat boilers, and this kind of cut down on the dangers of racing. And but it was not only racing ventures that steamboat travelers were in peril. I mean, they were constructed of wood.
Yeah.
So these were basically fire traps, and an exploding boiler, that fire would spread just instantly almost.
Wow.
So if you were asleep or whatever, unfortunately, you were in trouble. I mean, again, they would collide with each other. They would collide with small boats. And because they were lightweight, if they hit a snag, it would tear the hull, and they would sink just sometimes, within minutes. Well,
it sounds to me like you mentioned the size of these steamboats. How big were they again?
Let me see. I think this one was 190 feet long.
You know how long? That's a long ship. 190 feet long?
Yeah. So they were good-sized boats. So, it took a pretty skilled captain to, avoid the snags, avoid ending up on a sandbar, So,
when they built these things, did they have river reports of where all the rapids were and everything, and all the rocks and everything? Did they have advanced knowledge of where all the pitfalls were?
Well, they had some, but unfortunately, every winter, after the thaw, trees and stuff would come floating down and snag, but they did have different people that maintained what they call kind of a snag boat.
I see.
And these guys would attempt to clear the rivers with their snag boats to get rid of some of that danger. So for a while that did help. But again, every spring, trees and one thing or another would come floating down, and so every spring these snag boats would go out and try to clear the river.
Holy cow! Well, all was not so safe on board these steamboats.
No, I mean poorly maintained boilers. I mean they didn't. Yeah. They just wanted to get up and down the river. They didn't pay much attention to maintenance or anything like that. And I mean the steam from the boilers, not only fire but steam from the boilers would, I mean it was bad.
Yeah.
So, but. They actually, I found out, they actually still do steamboat races.
They do now?
And, this is an annual event that takes place on the Wednesday before the first Saturday of May, 3 days before the Kentucky Derby.
I'll be darned.
It's actually part of the Kentucky Derby Festival.
I didn't know that.
And this was first run in about 1963, and it takes place on the Ohio River, and it runs between Louisville, Kentucky, and Jeffersonville, Indiana. And there's a couple of boats. There's one called the Belle of Louisville, and another one called the Delta Queen, another one called the Belle of Cincinnati, another one called the American Queen. But they, as far as I know, they still do that every year as part of the Kentucky Derby Festival.
Holy cow! Well, you know what? You and I ought to build a steamboat and go up and down the Snake.
We'd have to stop at the bridges.
Listen, Dr. History.
Make it underneath the Hayburn Bridge.
And that's amazing because, it's too bad they didn't build those bridges a little higher so a guy could get underneath them, That's too bad, really.
Yeah. Well, and then you think about bridges over the Missouri River.
Yeah.
They had to, I don't know if they had to have some of the railroad bridges.
Yeah.
But they had to be high enough so that the steamers could get underneath them.
Well, how tall were they quickly?
I'm looking at one right now in a picture, and it's got to be, I'm going to say 30 feet high. With the actual boat, I'm going to guess, is probably 20.
Yeah.
And another maybe 15 for the two smokestacks.
Wow.
And in the background of this picture, there's a bridge with a train on it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, that bridge has got to be 40, 50 feet above the water.
Absolutely, absolutely. So. Well, listen, I'm out of time, but I want to tell you thanks so much for an excellent report this morning on steamboats. We'll get together and start building ours for our first annual Snake River Steamboat Race. And are you going to be here next week?
I will be here.
We'll look forward to it. Dr. History, better known as Dr. Ken Turner, and he always has an interesting segment. Thank you, Doc. God bless you. Have a wonderful week.
You have a good day, Zeb.
Thank you,
Bye.
My friend. Steamboats out in the west. Holy smokes. Kind of sounds like fun, though, doesn't it? Hey, don't forget the Chadwick Sports Grill, 139 West Main in Burley. Oh, every day they've got delicious food there, and the atmosphere. You go inside, and I just love looking at all the pictures and all the memorabilia on the walls and everything. Absolutely fun. And today, Tuesday, they've got a meatloaf dinner with choice of potato, veggies, and super salad. It's going to be good. Always is at the Chadwick Sports Grill, 139 West Main in Burley. You stop in and see them today. We're going to take a little break and send it back to our main studios, and then we'll be back with a very nice gentleman, the president of the Idaho Farm Bureau Federation, Mr. Frank Priestley. Don't go away.
And now back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
Oh, welcome back. Last half hour, we're on the home stretch. Zeb at the Ranch for this Tuesday morning. Don't forget Pro Paint, 1116 Oberlin and Burley with their great big 25th anniversary sale. The best paint, the best stains, the best advice, always. And, of course, Barbara and Brian are there to help you decorate and beautify your home. Pittsburgh paint is on sale. Industrial paint for farm equipment. They've got it all. So stop into the 25th anniversary sale. Pro Paint, 1116 Overland Avenue in Burley. Ladies and gentlemen, I've wanted to get this man on our program for quite some time. I've got a lot of respect for what he represents and what he does, and we'd like to say good morning to the president of the Idaho Farm Bureau Federation, Mr. Frank Priestley. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Zeb. How are you doing today?
I am fantabulous. I hope you are the same. And as I said a moment ago, I'm very honored to have you on the show this morning. And basically, I just wanted to talk about agriculture in the state of Idaho and also all across the United States. As president of the Idaho Farm Bureau, Frank, what exactly are your duties to the members of the Farm Bureau and to agriculture?
Well, the Farm Bureau is a general farm organization. We represent every aspect of agriculture. You know, some of the commodity groups, they represent their own particular commodity, whether it be dairy or wheat or whatever their commodity may be. But Farm Bureau is different. We have, if it's grown in Idaho, we've probably got a member that does that, and so. When we do our policies and make our recommendations, it has come through the whole grassroots organization with our general farm organization.
Now, Frank, I noticed, and I got to admit that I was unaware of this, that in 1939 when the Idaho Farm Bureau started, it started right here, less than a mile from my place at the town hall in Murtaugh. I was unaware of that.
Yes, that is where it happened. And this summer we're going to have a meeting there in that town and commemorate that. This is our 75th anniversary this year, and we're going to put up a little monument there in Murtaugh and recognize that town for being the birthplace of Idaho Farm Bureau.
Tell me a little bit about, Frank, how did you get into this part of the business as far as running for the presidency of the Farm Bureau? What's your past? Give us a little biography as to how you got where you are today.
Well, you know, it's kind of interesting. Like I said, our organization is a grassroots organization, and I started in Farm Bureau. Well, like most of our membership, they come with insurance, and our insurance company was formed because we couldn't get insurance at one time for farmers and ranchers, and so we decided to make up our own insurance organization, and that's what we did. And right after I bought my farm, shortly out of high school, I went with Farm Bureau Insurance and become a member of Idaho Farm Bureau and got involved with Young Farmers and Ranchers. That's the young group in our organization from 18 to 35, and I liked what I was doing. I liked what they stood for, and so I became the Young Farmer and Rancher Chairman in our county, and from there I went on to, of course, with that year on the local board, the county board, and so I did, and then I was elected vice president, and the president of our county at that time moved away, and that put me into president of the county. So I was the president of our county farm bureau for several years, and decided to run for the board of directors for the Idaho Farm Bureau, and successfully did that, and then I ran for vice president and then president.
I see.
And when I started out, I certainly had no inclination that I would ever run for president, or it just never ever crossed my mind, but it just kind of evolved, I guess.
Well, very good. Frank, I got to ask you these questions because you've got the insight as to where we're going in agriculture. Are you satisfied from where we've been across the United States, and especially here in Idaho, and where we're headed? Are you worried about the status of agriculture?
No, I'm not really worried about it. It will survive, and it's got to survive. For it to not survive, neither are we going to survive. Agriculture is where we get our bread and butter, and our clothing, and our food, and some fuel, and the whole 9 yards. I mean, we cannot live without agriculture. One thing that's got me a little concerned is if I may use the word, the environmental people don't really understand agriculture, and they seem to be the ones that want to run it, and that's concerning to me. It's costly, it's frustrating, and agriculture, that's the business that our farmers and ranchers are in, and certainly they don't want to do anything to the ground or anything to the crops or the livestock that interferes and hurts their operation and their livelihood. We have the most love and respect for our animals and the land. So that's a concern for me. But agriculture as a whole, we're going to survive. We always have.
Let me ask you this, though, and I think you'll concur with me that over the years in my lifetime, I've seen a diminishment of respect, and agriculture's been taken for granted by our politicians and people that aren't aware of how crops are grown and how our animals are cared for. And we see a lot of these politicians, Al Gore and others, that really don't have a caring for American agriculture, and they think we can go ahead and import our food from other countries. What's your response to these people that are unaware of really what takes place?
Well, that is a good point, Zeb. It really is. And if you've got a person with plenty of food or a country with plenty of food, they have lots of things to worry about. But you take a country or an individual person that doesn't have enough food, they've only got one thing to worry about.
That's right.
And bless us, we've got a lot of things to worry about in this country. And aren't we lucky? When we can take food for granted and it's just always there, what a blessing that we really don't realize that we have. Because there are countries and there are lots of people that they're really wondering where their next meal is going to come from. And we don't have that problem. And I think that we're very blessed for having that problem.
You mentioned a moment ago one single word that sends chills up my back because I've had to deal with some semblance of those groups at one time or another, the environmentalists or the animal rights activists. And we're going through some major problems in this United States, whether it was the spotted owl issue, whether it was the snail darter, whether it was the minnows in the water system down in California. And right here in the state of Idaho, we're really subjected to the reintroduction of the wolf. And it just doesn't seem like we can appease the environmentalists. It doesn't seem like they'll adhere to their agreements and honor their agreements. They always want more. What are your thoughts about this, Frank?
I'm not sure your show's long enough, Zeb. We got the first time that I was introduced to the endangered species. I was just on the board for the Idaho Farm Bureau, and we had a little teeny snail in the Bruno area called the Bruno snail. It was a Bruno hot spring snail. And somebody brought a little sample of that to us, of what they were, because we didn't know what they were. And he brought it in a little test tube, a little glass test tube vial, about the size of your finger, and they passed that around the room. And I looked at it from all directions, and I said, well, I can't see the snail. Where's the snail? And they said, Frank, it's that's in the bottom. And so I shook it a little bit, and they floated in the water. What I really thought those were, I thought it was just some sediment in the water that you'd scooped up out of the ditch, and there was some sediment in that. That's what I really thought it was. And all the hoopla and all of the things to save that little tiny snail, kick the cattle off of the range, and whatever else they had to do to save that little tiny snail. To me, Zeb, it's not the endangered species. That, to me, that is a tool. And the spotted owl, telling that they needed millions and millions of acres for a spotted owl to gain and reproduce and to thrive. And it's the same with our wolves. They told us they put in there 30, 35 wolves in there when they introduced them, and it was going to take decades for us to even show a significant increase. Well, now we've got some people think that there's over 1,000. I don't think that that's the right number of whoever they are, the Fish and Wildlife or the biologists or whoever they are. I don't think they have it quite that high, but how do you count those wolves that are back in the woods that you can't see and they're not collared, and how do you count for them? So we think that there's well more than what they say that there is, but that's us thinking too. They reproduced. They don't have any predators. They don't have any natural enemies, and that we were told that only one female would mate and da-da-da-da-da. Well, I don't know. I've been around livestock all my life, and it seems to me like every female comes into heat at some time or another, and if they can be, they're bred, and I think that that's the same thing that's happened to our wolves, and so where we used to have herds of elk, we don't have any cattle. They're hard on cattle. They come back. It's not only the ones that they kill that don't show up, but it's the ones that they harass, and so they come back off of the range 50 pounds lighter than they would be if they wasn't being tormented by them. They come back in. The cows are empty. They're not pregnant, and so there's a lot bigger loss with them than what they actually kill and eat. And so that's a big problem to us.
Absolutely. Frank, I want to ask you this question before we run out of time this morning, but I, a long time ago, started reading and studying about Agenda 21, and I've got to admit that I am a huge believer in Agenda 21 as to where they want to try to take our part of the country, our part of the United States, and turn it back into a nature's playground. When you look at the wolf issue and the water issue and the spotted owl and everything else, it's hard not to believe that our own government seems to be against us where we live.
Well, Zeb, I totally agree with what you just said. I guess I hesitate on making this comment, but I will. When you hear something 2 or 3 times removed and it's coming for the truth, you take it for what it is, and maybe it is and maybe it's stretched. I don't know. This person that talked to me, his friend was in a room where President Clinton made the comment that what his goal was to turn the American West into a national park. Now, I would really hate to believe that that's exactly what he said, but on the other hand, I take a look at it. Your comments, it sounds to reason to me that that's what it is. I don't think the Endangered Species Act, I don't think it's to do with the species. I think it's to do with the control of the land.
I do too. Let me ask you this. Do you see, as president of the Idaho Farm Bureau, and as much as you travel around other states and other areas, do you see an influx of young people wanting to get involved in agriculture, wanting to get involved in farming and ranching, or is there lesser numbers?
Well, our national average age of a farmer and rancher is a year or two older than what it has been in the last. I don't have that figure on the tip of my tongue right this minute, and I'm sorry about that. But on the other hand, I commented earlier about our Young Farmer and Rancher Committee, and they have an annual meeting where they get together and do whatever they do, and this year we had a record high at our meeting. And so, they're out there. There's young people that want to get into it. They want to be into farming. It's such a huge, huge investment financially to get into any land and then equip it. So it has to come back it almost has to come back down through the families where they're working with the family and going. But the one thing that would bring young people to the farm, and that is the profitability of it. Mm-hmm. And when they can make a profit and make a good living for them and their families, then they're going to be there. But we've got a lot of young people that are very interested and love agriculture, love the land, love their animals. It's a change, but I think that we are going to be okay.
One final thought, Frank, before I let you go this morning. I'd like you to comment. This year we're looking at perhaps a severe water year as far as not having enough adequate water to possibly irrigate all three areas of southern Idaho. What are your thoughts about water and storage for the state of Idaho?
Well, storage is where we get our water. There's no question about it. It is a storage. When we live in a desert, you have a totally different concern about water than when water just freely falls from the heavens and brings you 30, 40 inches of water, and we get 10 to 12. That makes a huge difference. So storage is the name of the game for Idaho, and one thing that's hard for me as an agriculture person is to let, when we need the water the most, and we let it go down the river to flush the fish. Mm-hmm. Maybe that works. I don't know. I haven't seen any scientific proof that it really does work. But on the other hand, storage water was put there for generation and for storage and for agriculture and flood control. It really wasn't put there for fish control, and I don't mean to bring out the enviros on that, because maybe it does work. I don't know, but it seems to me like what's flowing into those reservoirs and what is the normal flow of the river, why should we have to supplement and increase what's already there?
Absolutely.
So I guess I have a concern with that. When we got thousands and thousands of acres that need that water to feed our people, and it goes right back to what you're saying. I think most people just take food for granted, and thank goodness that we can. And it's important. It's important to the economy of the state of Idaho. It's important to our nation.
Absolutely. I want to say thank you very much, sir. Mr. Frank Priestley, president of the Idaho Farm Bureau Federation, and thank you for being on the program, and please come back and see us again if you would.
Thank you. It'd be my pleasure. Appreciate the invitation.
Thank you, sir.
Have a good day, then.
Thank you. You too. Very nice man, Mr. Frank Priestley, up at Franklin, Idaho, president of the Idaho Farm Bureau Federation, and his thoughts about agriculture on our program this morning. Holy cow, we've got to get a weather forecast in here, and the weather this hour is brought to you by Scarro's Meats at 331 North Road in Jerome. Number to call, write this down, 324-7657. It's time for what they call the tax return meat bundle. You know what that is? It's 75 pounds of beef, pork, and chicken for only $250. Cut the way you like it, and you will love the way it's cut and ready for you at Scarro's Meats in Jerome. Wonderful people selling taste one bite at a time. We'll have the weather right now with Michael Rogers Weather.
Hi, everybody. Michael Rogers for MichaelRogersWeather.com. Not a bad day for today. Sun and clouds, partly cloudy tonight. Chance of showers for tomorrow. Temperatures on the mild side, almost like spring weather. But not yet. We're almost to spring, but not yet. We are officially and still are in winter. Sorry about that, but we're going to be done here real quick, so hang in there. Shouldn't be a bad day today. Temperatures should be for a daytime high right around 57, 59, low around in the upper 30s. Have a great day. Enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
There you go. Thank you, Michael. Brought to you by Scarro's Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome, 324-7657. Check it out, because Scarro's, delicious, delicious meats, selling taste one bite at a time. Oh, my goodness sakes, we're almost out of time this morning, and before I get too wrapped up here, we'll say a couple of final words to Gene over at our main station. I want to remind you about a great big spring tire sale that's going on right now. Where, Zeb? Tell them. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations. You know, I mentioned yesterday the Ultra Z900, their best all-season touring tire, is on sale. Well, how about also the Eclipse tire is on sale? And boy, that's all-season reliability, 70,000-mile warranty, long-lasting tread. And how about the Proxys 4 Plus? 47% more tread life, shorter stopping distance. I guarantee you, folks, the best in tires, all the tread designs, everything for your safe driving right there at all 7 of your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. The best in brake service, the best in battery, shocks and struts, front end alignments, it's all there. With Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, Twist Family and Paul, John on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland in Burley, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. You stop in and see them today. Gina, do you know what we forgot earlier? Not we, it's my fault. You know what I forgot?
Yeah, I do. Tip of the cup?
Tip of the coffee cup this morning. Even though it's mid-morning and almost lunch, we're going to have a tip of the coffee cup to some dear friends of mine, Larry and Nancy Hudig, and, you know, they're University of Idaho Vandal fans.
Yes, I do know.
How did you know that?
Because you've said it multiple times.
Oh, have I rubbed it in a little bit?
Just a little.
Oh,
every once in a while.
A tad, okay. And then also we want to give a tip of the coffee cup to Thomas and Terry over at Denny's. Don't they do a great job over there?
Oh, they do a wonderful job, and God bless Terry. She's even there working when she's not supposed to be working.
You know, isn't that the truth? She just kind of goes around from table to table, kind of like a little honeybee going here, there, and everywhere. And how you doing? Is everything okay? What can we do for you? Wow, that service is fantastic.
I loved it, and I always love it when Terry is there, and I'm very, of course, excited for next month because Denny's is becoming my new favorite.
You know, one of these days, we'll just get you and your entourage, your people and my people, and we'll meet with those people at Denny's, and we'll have lunch, and all of us people will be happy.
We will be happy with all of our people.
Absolutely. Tomorrow, let's see what we've got cooking here. Open forum. Tomorrow is Ash Wednesday, by the way. I wanted to mention that. And we're going to have our old buddy from Colorado, Doug Johnson, on the phone. And you remember, we've had her on the program a couple of times, the attorney, Gail Trotter, very outspoken.
Oh, yes.
She's going to be on tomorrow. I'm looking forward to that. And then we have Representative Fred Wood going to be calling us from the legislative session. There we go. And then at 10:30, our old friend Jack Euler. And Jack is smoking mad because of what's going on with the wolf situation. And we're going to have him on the air at 10:30 tomorrow. So we got a full plate tomorrow right here at Zeb at the Ranch.
Jack is so knowledgeable about the wolf situation. I have a lot of respect because he's really kind of dedicated his life to this.
You know, he has. And I met him back about 1995 and went to a couple of meetings with him, and he's just absolutely jumped in. And I honestly don't think there's any person anywhere in the United States that knows more about a particular subject like he does, the wolves and the wolf reintroduction, than Jack Euler. I think he's absolutely the number one man.
I completely agree with that. He's done his studies, and he's definitely a national expert on the topic.
Absolutely. Well, you have a good day. I suppose you're going to go work on the car later on.
No. I've got work here, and then do the boy thing. And if the weather holds out, we might even get outside and play afterwards.
Oh, it's supposed to get up into the 60s maybe tomorrow.
I know it.
All right, get a sunburn. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll be back tomorrow morning at 8:06, Zeb at the Ranch on K-Bar 1230 and streaming live on the net all over the universe, ZebBell.com. God bless the way things were, the way things ought to be. See you tomorrow morning.